models at? Where's the adults? That's the question we all trying to figure out.
We are back. We are back. Hit that like button, guys. Like, share, and subscribe. All the things. Please do all the things for me. We got to talk about these children. These damn teenagers must be stopped. We're just going to open it up like that. These goddamn teenagers, somebody's got to put an end to this. It's getting out of hand. It's getting out of control. These kids are out of pocket. This fatherless nation is running amok. We might have to start locking people up. Might have to start putting people away. Moms, dads, uncles, aunts, whoever. Grandma, whoever's in charge of these little bastards, somebody's going to have to go to jail. Who's ever out here raising these little terrors, somebody's going to have to pay. But as I was putting the show together today, and you know me, I kind of like look through a lot of content. You know, I review a lot of content while I'm up here. And I'm noticing not everybody feels the way about the teen takeovers. Some people are a little bit encouraging of it too. It's crazy. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's creating a whole series of reputational problems. And let's just be clear before we really get into the drama. let me put this out here definitively. The teen takeovers are definitely a Black issue. The teen takeovers are a new Black American crisis right now. This is a phenomenon unlike anything I think we've seen before, maybe in quite a while. I really think the teen takeover issue, it's really because, well, it's really a holdover from the George Floyd era. I think the teen takeover thing really kind of took hold during that whole wave of permissiveness and catering to the whole Black outrage mob, where the country kind of just quietly accepted that, you know, the Blacks are upset. We're just gonna have to let them get it off their chest for a while. And yeah, we've had wilding out for a little while. I'll grant you that, Elsid. We've had the idea, the phenomenon of wilding out for a little while, but wilding out was almost always more of a contained thing. You know, you would have had a few kids here, a few kids there. This idea where like all the kids in a region effectively converge onto like a Six Flags or a fast food restaurant, a gas station. It's taken on an entirely new shape. And I think, you know, the combination of wilding out and again, that permissiveness of like the George Floyd protest era, it's created an era of like teenage arrogance, maybe. But either way, it's becoming a bit of a problem for the community. This is becoming a cultural issue. And I think heads are going to have to roll at some point.
If you're white and wondering why Black people would be okay with being separate but equal if both sides were really equal, it's simple. Our culture enhances and brings joy to your life. Your culture does harm to ours. It actually kills us. You get it now? If you're white and wondering,
you know what? Spare me with your selective outrage. Can you imagine being out with your family, enjoying a day at the mall, and this type of shit happens? And you can call me whatever kind of Uncle Toms you want to. I mean, there's animals in the zoo that act more civilized than this group of people. This type of behavior has become such a norm in public places to the point of if you see a group of young Black individuals just congregating, you're in fear because you think some shit is about to pop off. All they have to do is bump into somebody they got a beef with on social media or in school, and God forbid, they're not going to fight. No, the days of mutual combat with the fist, that's gone. These kids are so sissified, all they think of is pulling out a gun and shooting. And you know, the sad part is most of the children in this video are not from the hood. They are suburban kids, but yet they're acting out a fantasy of wanting to be in that kind of life when they're not about that life.
I wonder how true that is. I think that is definitely another phenomenon. Really, it's a teenage thing, but it's also it's a very Black coded thing. You know, you want to play up the ghetto part of your culture. You want to be down, you want to be hip, all that stuff, right? But I don't know. I wonder how much of that is just teenage suburban Black kids cosplaying the ghetto, or if it's something a little bit wider. If this is something, if it signals something a little bit dangerous and a little bit more darker about the nature of modern Black youth culture.
DC is trying to crack down on teen takeovers, but no one can agree on how to stop them. There's a few strategies city leaders are proposing. Option 1, curfew zones. These would be specific neighborhoods where teens can't gather past a certain time, say maybe 8 o'clock. Option 2, making curfews permanent. Critics say this risks over-policing and targeting kids who aren't doing anything wrong. Option 3, more youth programs, more jobs, more community functions that would basically get kids, out of these neighborhoods, off these streets, and doing something productive. What's the solution here? Crack down harder on these kids or try to generate more community programs? DC hasn't decided yet, and that debate is still unfolding. Drop me a comment. Tell me what you think should be done. I'd love to hear your...
I think the whole community program pitch is just dumb. Do you think this looks like a bunch of kids who need after school ping pong? An after school chess club, that's what would help this, right? It's always more programs. And this is the problem with the modern approach to things. Nobody wants to take the tough angle, because this can play out in two ways, right? And I think it's one thing when the teenagers themselves show up and they're beating up on themselves and, two kids get in a fight. Even when the kids shoot each other, that's kind of expected and nobody's going to be all shocked and the kids will still come back and keep doing that, right? When regular innocent bystanders, when like some guy who doesn't want his car torched or stomped on, some guy who doesn't want his store robbed and ransacked, when they pull out a shotgun, when they pull out a pistol, and one of these kids get laid out and sent back to dear Jesus, then people are going to be like, oh my God, what do we do? But that's the only way to stop the kids from coming back.
Good morning. And I just want to know, as far as all these Chicago kids doing these takeovers, what's different from the stupid shit y'all used to do when y'all was teenagers? And you know what's funny is, y'all so whitewashed and hell bent on controlling everything that you forget that it's little bitty pieces of information in here that are very valuable. A, these kids know how to mobilize. B, they know how to organize. C, they don't mind being together. Nobody had to convince them. There is no tragedy that forced them to band together. We can use this to our advantage in the city of Chicago and honestly nationwide, if we can figure out who are the organizers of these takeovers. If we can figure out how are they communicating with one another. If we can figure out how to be beneficial to the things that they are doing while simultaneously teaching them the real civics and community engagement.
That's what the children need. A civics lesson in community engagement. That's how you fix the children. And like I was telling you, there are people who take a bit of a defensive posture about these teen takeovers, Let the kids do what they want. The kids just want to have fun. Give them more programs. It's your fault because you didn't provide a program for them.
That wrong. While at the same time allowing them to be free and have the funds that they desire. That is not detrimental to anybody else. See, y'all see a bunch of kids acting a damn fool. And I see a tremendous opportunity for us to figure out the skill set they're using. Because it's for sure a skill set.
Yeah, these kids have a skill set. It's called the internet. We have to now figure out how to like corral the rambunctious energy of the kids and start a revolution for Keisha, a Keisha-lution.
And it's not built on oppression. So instead of demonizing them and attempting to take away their ability to have these things or whatever they're doing, we dropping the ball again.
I'm going to speak as somebody from a former activist who organized a protest, one of the biggest protests, only for it to get hijacked by leftists and taken for 100 days when the original protest was to release children out of jail. And I'm going to speak from that experience. I find it weird for adults and people to sit there and berate children. I find it very weird. All this, curfew, teen takeovers, and calling for the jailing of parents and children is overreactive. It's overreaction. The kids want to turn up. It's spring break.
Yo, why you calling my man prehistoric, bro? That's wild. But I'll tell you, a lot of people, they feel some kind of support for these children. It's our fault. Caveman believes in the kids.
They want to have a little fun. They want to enjoy themselves. And we know some of them want to look good on Instagram, social media, and look good in front of their friends and do whatever that the kids do. These weird ass adults are another thing. These weird ass adults, they won't let the children get out, have fun, enjoy themselves, always want to lock them up in the house. Then when the kids get out, sad, they want to click up, march in packs, and they wearing hoodies and scullies and hooshiesties, and people get afraid and people get scared. It make me feel like black people are turning into the new Karens, or black people are turning into the new white people.
Yeah, black people are becoming anti-black, apparently. That's what Roland Martin was talking about the other night. You black people always criticizing the stuff that black people do, always talking about the crazy, ironic, random acts of blackness that people engage in. You niggas are anti-black.
You clutch your purse every time you see 4 black guys with dreadheads. Women get a little catty when they see 2 or 3 black girls walking down the street in their yoga pants and looking all hot. And it's crazy. It's just been weird why people would sit here and talk shit about these teenagers.
I gotta point this out, Is it just me? You guys tell me in the chat if I'm bugging, but the crazy dreadhead look, the tarantula locks that, they start calling it, that look doesn't give responsible, likable citizen, right? It just doesn't. That is not an inviting, welcoming, I'm a decent guy kind of look, all right? The tarantula dreadlock look, it just doesn't give friendly. That you are not friend-shaped. I trust my judgment. You are not friend-shaped.
And children. Oh, they need more rec centers, or they need more after-school tutoring, and the parents need to be involved in their lives and know what they're doing, blah, 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 or they should all go to jail and pay a fine. In my hood, we got 70% homelessness and poverty among black women and children. Among my hood, we have the lowest rates of attendance out of our school district. And also, we have other issues that are socioeconomic. And what you are proposing are not going to work. Nobody wants to hear all that. Oh, back in my day, we did this. Back in my day, we used to play ping pong. We used to play table pong. We used to play jacks. And we were in before the street lights were on. Ain't nobody trying to hear that shit. You too old and you too settled in your ways. Listen, if you had good parents that gave you stuff to do and gave you activities and you turned out fine, that's all right.
So these kids don't have good parents who give them stuff to do and fill their lives with activities, huh? Interesting.
But you're not finna exert your opinion on children that are innocent. They're innocent. They don't know for what they not know. They just want to be out in the downtown. They want to be out in the streets. And all these weird ass parents, all these weird ass folks, it's just out of control. So basically what's going on is that there was a teen takeover in our city, and all the leaders, all the gatekeepers, all the city officials and socialites want to get all upset. Now, before then, they had opening day. And then at night, when the young people come out, because it's Friday night and people want to, get lit or whatever, and they want to walk around and see what they see. And it was the last day of spring break. So why is these children out here? And there's supposed to be curfew and all that type of shit. Well, first of all, that was the first time of the summer for everybody at our town. And these same people that's going around here talking about the kids should be in school. It was spring break. What the fuck is you talking about? It wasn't no school night. It was the weekend. And you gonna force, basically what it is racial profiling, because our downtown was made for white people, tourists, and gentrifier outsiders.
And there it is. You being racist against black teens who just want to exercise their blackness in a world of white privilege.
This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle.
Always goes back to the racisms.
And they want to keep our black kids, our black youth, and our black young adults, basically black people, period. They want to keep them away from downtown. They don't want them to enjoy the new things. And some of our city leaders sold us out as well. They spent the kids' school money on an arena, a hockey arena. They spent the kids' school money on tax abatements and all the housing and funding.
That's crazy. That's crazy because everybody knows black kids don't play no goddamn hockey. Everybody knows niggas don't hockey. In like 50 years of the NHL, there's been like 2 niggas.
Such that could have went for housing and for wraparound services. They spent that on the new building. Gave billionaires tax abatements. There is no money left. And they took them out the schools and they put them in these centers, and then they want to put these kids in jail. In a crappy run facility that a billionaire paid for, which has plumbing problems, which has...
No, we're going to move on from homo habilis up here, goddammit. Y'all killing me. Y'all got to stop roasting the subjects, man. Killing me. Y'all killing me.
As a teacher who teaches Black teenagers, we have to do a better job with providing third spaces, activities for these teenagers to be a part of. Clearly, they want to be a part of society. They want to socialize, but we don't have anything in place for them unless they're just sitting on their phones or...
That is why Jamal was jumping on your car. He clearly wants to be a part of society, but Jamal can't figure out how to find a way into society. And so there he is jumping on your car trying to find a way in. That's all that really is. Jamal is jumping on your car because he desperately wants to be a taxpayer. You know what I mean? He is destroying your property in an act of impotent frustration because he cannot figure out how to get a job with a 401k.
We're doing dumb stuff like teen takeovers in areas where it is concentrated with police. We know how that can go. A teenager died, I believe, a couple of months ago during one of these teen takeovers. And I'm constantly talking to my students about stay away from downtown, stay away from these teen takeovers, because it typically ends bad. And parents, you should know where your kid is. Pull up, pick them up, take them somewhere. Like, do something with these kids because they are looking for something. So
I think they're looking for trouble. I got to tell you, as a former teenager myself, sometimes you're just looking for trouble. Trouble is more fun than being good. All right, that's just the mindset of it. Trouble is more fun than being good. I remember one time I had the strangest, really just quick happenstance encounter. I'm like, I'm back. I'm in the projects, whatever. I was walking through the P's. I was going, I'm going from one place to the next. I'm just walking somewhere, and these kids had start walking past me, and as they're walking by, I kind of start picking up on their little conversation because they're talking loud or whatever. And the one kid is like, "Yo, I'm bored, man. What we gonna do? We need something to do." And the other kid says, without missing a beat, "Yo, let's get chased by the police." And so that's the plan they came up with. That was their adventure for the day. Let's find a reason to get chased by the police, right? Because trouble is more fun than, being good.
Chipotle, the trampoline park, the community pool, the middle of the road, McDonald's, a regular park, a movie theater, the amusement park, the mall. It's majority Black teenagers. We have to be honest and real about this conversation, and that also includes highlighting the bad parenting that is at play and how we can't just keep saying, oh, it's the kids, it's also the parents too. Because as much as I want to blame the kids for being rowdy and acting insane and just acting ridiculous, we also have to ask, okay, how did they get ridiculous? How did they get rowdy? How are these teenagers growing up with this sense of just, I don't care about anything? How did we get there? That's what we're going to discuss in this video. And let this video be a reminder that you're not alone for thinking the way that you do. So if you like this type of honest and real commentary, be sure to subscribe. It helps the channel grow a ton. And let's just go.
Bro, somebody needs to take...
First off, Dollar Tree, Target. This is what they're doing. They're going to ChatGPT and all these AI websites, and they're building up a flyer, and they have Instagram pages, TikTok pages, and they just highlight, hey, we're going to take over this area. And ultimately, it just means everybody meet up and just... there's so many of you guys who are just that rowdy, you're that crazy. But it seems to be inevitable that there's always a fight that happens. There may be a shooting, there's stealing, there's looting. It's just always a disaster for some reason. But this is how...
And Red Illusion asked an interesting question. How you bored with a phone and Xbox now, though? And now we have this world of infinite entertainment at your fingertips, right? We are more entertained as a culture. Western civilization has more entertainment for the average person than at any point ever in history. Like, once upon a time, you could only watch a play if you were a part of sort of the upper crust or whatever. Very few of the regular average poor people got to watch things like plays. Now Hollywood movies stream for free on my phone. You can watch all the latest blockbusters. Damn near any movie that's over 10 years old now, you can pretty much find it for free somewhere. And you can find a lot of newer movies for free if you know where to look. Wink, wink. But we have the most entertainment that we've ever managed to create. And we've We've distributed it to the world. It's not even like you have a high barrier for entry anymore. Yet we are bored out of our minds. And I don't think boredom is really a problem of entertainment. Yeah, no, we're about to get a little deep here. I don't think being bored in such a grand cultural level like this is really an issue of lack of entertainment. I really think it's you know, what I started to say a minute ago, there was an idea I really hadn't fleshed out when I started talking about this, but what if extended childhood is a problem unto itself? It's not even a matter of boredom. It's one, we have this extended childhood phenomenon that's really a new thing over the last 100 years, where you're basically an unresponsible adolescent up until like your 20s. And I think we don't give teenagers enough responsibility. And so the perpetual adolescent phenomenon is starting to lock in. And I think on top of that, there's an issue of like, somebody mentioned, somebody raised a question earlier, what's worse, the Hitler Youth or the YNs, right? And I think, there is a kind of Boy Scout type of problem that needs to be solved, where young people, men and women, boys and girls, really, not men and women, but boys and girls, they really do need a kind of ritualized transition into adulthood, where you're kind of forced to adopt certain traits and certain mannerisms and certain behaviors because that is what is expected of you. And I think one of the teen takeover problems, what the teen takeover reveals, is that we have a bunch of children who exist in the world where nothing is expected of them. Like I remember I was having a conversation with my son a while ago about like, when you go off to school, the things that you do in school reflect on me. You represent me while you're out in the world, and vice versa. Like I represent you, like you don't want to see anything. You don't want to hear about your father getting caught up in some crazy scandalous situation or whatever. Like we represent each other. There is a burden that we carry for one another. And I think with the teenagers and the teen takeover thing, you have a bunch of people, a bunch of children, young boys and girls who feel no burden, no representation. They have no responsibility to anyone or anything beyond their own impulses.
How it all comes to be, and this page says we don't promote violence, and then you see one that says kill. Come on now. But I can see how they get so many people in one area because of social media. Whereas I feel like back in the day, early 2000s, early 2010s, if you met up with your friends or you were going somewhere, it was typically just that school or the neighboring school, and that's it. You didn't have the whole town. You didn't have all the different high schools coming together to do something. If you were saying, oh, this Friday night, we're going to the skating rink, it typically was only the two high schools in that area that would go to that skating rink. But now when you have all these flyers and it's like, oh, let's do this teen takeover, the whole city comes. Neighboring cities, everybody hops in the car, people ordering Ubers, they all meet up, and then they just act a fool.
Like these and that, but especially this one. Why are we going across, you guys? And then they post stuff like this on their story. Like, are you serious? Can we make?
That's another interesting point. American Man says the argument that blacks thrived under oppression is beginning to seem real reasonable. No oppression, and what do we have? Life is struggle. And once it seemed like we had that alleged struggle against oppression, we did better. And I don't think it's as simple as that. I think there are things that we may be leaving off the table, but there is a reality to what you're pointing out. This is why I have such a deep suspicion of like the past.
And in case anybody is confused about how them teen takeovers happen, let me tell you how it happens. Just look at my comment section. That's how it happened. Look at the parents in my comment section talking about, if you need to know all the information about where your kid going, just keep them. It be their kids. Because they don't need all the details. Kid be like, Mom, I'm going to Jasmine house. The mother be like, okay. And that's the end of that. Mama don't know if Jasmine mama gonna be home. Mama don't need to talk to Jasmine mama. Mama don't know if a daddy in the house. Mama don't know if it's older brothers or younger brothers in the house. Mama don't know if pedophile uncle or cousin in the damn house. Mama don't even got the house address. She just met Jasmine once and she let her baby go on over to Jasmine house at the tender age of 15 years old. Go ahead, ain't asking no questions. All she asks is, where you going? She said, Jasmine house. I'll be back later. Don't even know what damn time the baby coming back. And that's okay. And that's how you see these teen takeover events happening. You see on the news, then it is you watching, and you say, is that Jasmine and my daughter? That's them. That's your baby right there in that crop top and them little ass shorts right there. Oh, she didn't have that on when she left the house? Oh, okay. Because you didn't ask no damn questions. You didn't ask shit. You never do. And in case anybody is confused about how them teen takeovers happen, let me tell you how it happens. Just look at my comment section. That's how it happened. Look at the parents in my comment section talking about if you need.
Can somebody explain to me what a teen takeover even is? Like, why are we doing this? What's going on?
So now it's come to this. Now y'all heathen kids and you will be charged if they are caught during these teen takeovers.
Yes, y'all heathen kids. Somebody got to do something about these heathen, godless children running amok, terrorizing good God-fearing, hard-working people.
Atlanta has had enough after Piedmont Park and that incident where a whole child was killed and another little girl was shot. So the problem is y'all kids are bored. They are bored. Y'all don't take them no damn where. They are only limited to the environment that they have, the hood environment that they have been raised in their entire lives. Y'all don't take them no damn where. I mean, the most they'll probably go is to Six Flags. Y'all overcompensate with cell phones, tablets, and video games, and they have gotten bored with that. Y'all need to travel more with y'all kids. They too busy watching I Show Speed, the Cosmonauts, boys who look like them, travel all over the world, do cool things, visit cool places, hang out with cool people. And that's not even get on these YouTube families that travel everywhere and have all these adventures and do all of these fun things with their kids. And they are watching this stuff and soaking it up. And then looking around in their toxic and dysfunctional environments and realizing they will never have lives like this. Y'all don't take y'all kids out. No damn where. I love traveling with my kids. I love seeing the.
You're making an argument that like black kids are jealous of happy, successful families that get to do things and post it on the internet. This is like a bitter children of single mother argument.
Joy on their faces when we travel with them. That is the problem. When y'all get y'all tax money, guess what y'all do? Go buy Jordans, go buy the latest PS5, the latest Xbox, the latest iPhone, and make y'all kids sit at home in their rooms and game all day. When I used to get my tax returns, I would take my kids and go travel places. Y'all don't travel with.
Notice when she got her tax return, she took her kids to travel places, right? Just her and the kids. Gonna find you a daddy on the way. We always on the lookout for a new daddy. Just her and the kids.
These babies, and they are bored, and now they are seeking violence for fun because they're angry. Okay, running from the police.
Look, what did I tell you? Seeking violence for fun because they're angry and bored.
Running through crowds, inciting violence has now become exciting and fun for them. It's all because of the parenting. Y'all have become lazy and extremely lax at parenting. Y'all have all these kids that you cannot afford, and now you're exhausted and you're tired. You don't know what to do with them because their daddy's not around, and you just say, go do whatever. Because the problem has come down to the fact that y'all don't want to parent and take a hold of these babies.
Hey, Red Illusion, you know, a long time ago on this channel, we came up with board game theory. And basically, in short, it was an observation that SKC and I forget who else was on the panel at that time, but I think one of us pointed out how, because we stumbled onto the memories of playing board games as children, or playing board games with our children. And I started to point out how, like, just the act of playing board games with your children kind of creates positive beneficial effects, right? Just learning how to play fair, learning how to get along, communication, negotiation, strategy, bargaining, these kinds of things. Like when you play Monopoly or something like that, a game of Monopoly among the family, it turns into like different layers of different social interaction that you can like apply later on in the world. It really is like a little judo lab for being an adult. And you start to get the feeling that a lot of people that you encounter in the world, they never played board games growing up. Like, I wonder, I'm willing to bet most of these kids that get locked up at a teen takeover never played board games growing up in the house with their mom and dad. Because for one, you need parents that are inclined into such activities, right? And then two, you're more likely to have that inclination and intact nuclear family environments where both parents are a little bit more involved and invested. It's just more likely one of them is going to make the suggestion. One of them is going to literally go to Target and buy some board games for family game night. Like, somebody has to come up with the idea of family game night, which means one of the parents has to think of it and do it and make it happen. And all I'm saying is, you get out here in the world and you get the feeling that a lot of you niggas didn't have family game night.
This is sad.
Shout out to family game night, by the way. You niggas don't know what you're missing.
Tonight, the mayor of Atlanta sends a strong message to parents after a deadly shooting at Piedmont Park.
Speaking directly to parents, we don't want to parent for you. It's your job to parent.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us here on 11 Alive and streaming on 11 Alive Plus. I'm Ron Jones.
And I'm Jennifer Bellamy. Tonight, city leaders are frustrated following a violent Easter weekend. Police say more than a dozen people were shot, including 16-year-old Tiana Robinson, who lost her life when someone opened fire inside Piedmont Park. It happened Saturday night following a 404-day event.
And right now, there is a $15,000 reward for information leading to an arrest out there. And just hours ago, we spoke with Robinson's older brother, telling the teens to put the guns down.
Like, we supposed to have fun when we go out, not worrying about if somebody gonna kill us or anything like that. So it's like all these young people, they got free to stop with all the gang violence because there's too much going on. And my sister lost her life to it, and I just hope we get justice for her.
It ain't no white people to blame. That's the worst part about these things. It's tragic, it's heartbreaking, and there's no white people to blame. Not a one.
Well, tonight, police say several shootings this weekend were beyond their control.
We have live team coverage tonight following the investigations and taking a behind-the-scenes look at one of the city's solutions. We begin with 11 Alive's Cody Alcorn live from the Atlanta Public Safety Headquarters, where police and city leaders held a news conference earlier today. Cody.
Yeah, Jennifer, this was no doubt one of the most violent weekends we have seen in this city in quite some time. But when you zoom out, Mayor Dickens put some perspective on it for us earlier today. He says when you're looking at homicide.
You said white people drop the YNs off to the hood. That's terrible. That's the new conspiracy niggas going with. It was the white man that shipped all of these YNs to my hood.
As of January 1st to today, we're at 17. Go back 4 years, that number was 48. At least 8 separate shootings across the city of Atlanta Easter weekend.
a lot of those incidents were beyond the control of the police department.
Assistant Chief Carventaya says 3 of the 8 shootings were self-inflicted, including one man who shot himself in the leg.
And was less than truthful with the police and said he got robbed.
And a teenager shot after police say he committed a crime.
And as he's running away, his pants fall down. He grabs his pants and he accidentally shoots himself.
One of the most...
All right, this is starting to just become comical. Oh my God, this is like world's dumbest criminals. What just happened? What just happened? You niggas in Atlanta used to be proper villains. What happened?
Heartbreaking, a 3-year-old killed after getting a hold of a gun.
Who's killed inside of an apartment at 12 at night, left there by the parent who's trying to go to work and make a living.
In a 4th shooting, police say a father shot his 15-year-old son over drugs.
Those incidents,
a father shot his 15-year-old son over drugs. This is how you stop the teen takeovers, man. All right, I bet you that little nigga don't show up to a teen takeover that night. This is how you do it, all right? That's good parenting. And that little nigga better have my money next time I see him, all right? Child support checks ain't gonna pay themselves, all right? Little nigga got to come up with my money. That was crazy. A father shot his son over drugs. Oh, bro.
At night.
I wonder who owed who. Who do you think owed the money? Who do the drugs really belong to? I would really love to get the full background on that story.
Left there by the parent who's trying to go to work and make a living.
In a 4th shooting, police say a father shot his 15-year-old son over drugs.
Those incidents, the Atlanta Police Department really cannot control. But let's be clear, the ones that we can control, we will come after those people.
APD is offering a $15,000 reward to help track down the shooters who opened fire Saturday night inside Piedmont Park. The shooting took the life of 16-year-old Tiana Robinson. Just hours later, 2 men were shot along Edgewood Avenue. And the weekend ended with 4 teenagers shot Sunday night on Spark Street. Mayor Dickens says the city saw an influx of visitors over the weekend, noting that Atlanta's population is just 8% of the entire metro area.
This 8% can't take care of 92% of the folks' kids. So, but they love our amenities. Piedmont Park is paid for by Atlanta taxpayers and the Conservancy, but folks from all...
You say amenities like they all went to a pool party. He said they love our amenities like they were just hanging out on the boardwalk.
All over come enjoy it.
Mayor Dickens says policies are being reviewed, including curfew times following the violent weekend.
Priority number 1 is to, respect this grieving family, Tiana Robinson, and to find the killers that committed this heinous crime.
During that news conference today, Mayor Dickens said there were 32 officers on Edgewood Avenue Saturday night when that shooting happened. He says as far as Piedmont Park, while they didn't give us a number, they said it was adequately staffed with APD officers. In fact, the assistant chief says in both of those shootings, Edgewood Avenue and Piedmont Park, officers were in the area and responded to those shots fired before any 911 calls were made.
Video of the chaos spreading rapidly across social media. In Chicago's Hyde Park, large groups of teens swarmed the streets, climbing on cars, setting off alarms. Similar scenes of unrest unfolding in Detroit. And in Washington, D.C., a rowdy crowd taking over a neighborhood on Saturday. The incident led to 8 arrests, all between 12 and 17 years old. 5 are accused of assaulting an officer.
I ain't got no real guidance for real. Stay in school, y'all, and trust the process.
These large flash mob style gatherings are being dubbed teen takeovers, organized
Stay in school and trust the process, y'all.
online through apps like TikTok and Snapchat, often with little warning.
I feel like we doing good to be young, and the police just be harassing us because they see we young black males trying to.
Oh my God, no. Not we just young black males, they harassing us. We out here doing good. Wu-Tang is for the kids, y'all. We out here doing good.
TikTok and Snapchat, often with little warning.
I feel like we doing good to be young, and the police just be harassing us because they see we young black males trying to do what we want to do outside.
Law enforcement and city leaders are now scrambling to respond, but there's growing debate over how to handle it. In Chicago, Mayor Brandon Johnson is urging parents to step in.
Please do not allow your child to attend any of these trends this weekend. They're unsafe and they can turn deadly.
Some leaders.
Damn. Imagine becoming a better parent because Brandon Johnson made a TikTok video. This is a crazy world we live in. Brandon Johnson making people better parents now.
In the mostly Democrat-run cities question whether arresting young people is the right approach.
Ultimately, are we using the resources in the best way?
In Washington, D.C., curfews are already in place in some areas, restricting when teens can gather. Current Mayor Muriel Bowser strongly favors the policy, but candidates looking to replace her.
Do you support extending youth curfew zones?
Have struggled to say whether they would keep it. Janine Pirro, the U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., argues cities like Washington created the problem through soft on crime laws and policies.
The D.C. Council that is responsible for the teen crime based upon the inept laws that they have passed. The problem is that they don't believe that these young people need to be treated as criminals. They are committing adult crimes.
I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting.
I'm telling you, you're going to have to start locking people up. Aunties, uncles, too.
Well, a Culver's owner in the south suburbs says that enough is enough. She is tired of teens coming in to cause chaos inside of her restaurant.
Yeah, she says they've had food fights, they have walked on tables, they have vandalized the store. So after posting video of some of the incidents online, the owner received help from community leader Early Walker, who called on parents to step up and take responsibility. Christian Farr has that story.
I love my job. I put a lot of sweat and tears.
Owner Dondria Murray worked hard to become the first Black woman to own a Culver's franchise restaurant, which is located in South Suburban Matson.
Get out. Look, got Black-owned businesses coming into the picture now. They about to burn down a Black-owned business for justice. That's what's about to happen. The one Black Culver's in the whole goddamn state.
Pride turned to disappointment when she had to make this post.
I made the post because I have been trying to get the kids to behave at my restaurant.
The ongoing problem would happen when students got out of school and would then gather at her Cicero Avenue restaurant.
They come in inside the lobby while my guests are trying to eat. They're very disrespectful. They're having food fights. They're tearing up the bathrooms. They're basically being disruptive.
This is not an administration problem. This is not a trustee problem. This is a where are the parents problem.
And you know what? I'm with you. Angry Snowman says, when I was a kid, you got put in boot camp for shit like this, all right? I'm just saying, they would have put me in boot camp. Mom tried to put me in boot camp one time. I wasn't going. Fuck that shit. I'm for the streets. Shout out to Lil Rock, the new member, joining the church. Appreciate y'all coming through. Please hit that like button, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome to the church.
Get it again. Okay, I'm going to say it again. I come in the name of Jesus. Repeat it after me, bitch. I come in the name of Jesus by the power of the Holy Spirit.
Businessman and philanthropist Early Walker saw Murray's post and echoed a message that the restaurant owner put in her original post, that parents need to speak to their children about this issue.
There's nothing the mayor can do. There's nothing the city can do. There's nothing any city officials can do about other people's kids. The only person that can control these kids are the parents of these kids.
You know what? That's a great thing. You know, I was about to do some content. I had a whole other type of content I was going to do today. There was a documentary that I found. So it's actually very old, but it was about Black people back in like the 1950s. And it was damn, I forget. It was called, I think it was called Black Like Me or something like that. I know it's in my watch history somewhere. I might pull that up. I've been meaning to actually do some commentary on that. But it was it looked like a wealthier, educated Black America existed. And then, you know, we had like the civil rights movement. Oh, it's called Still a Brother. That's what it's called. The Negro middle class in 1968. So my mama was a baby. If you guys want to hang around, we just might run this show in the overtime. I might run this show in the overtime and throw a panel on the top. We just might do that. I got a little bit of time today. It's early. I might have some time to kill. But you just reminded me of that, Freeman's Journal. Like, there is a whole other side of Black America that just kind of doesn't really make the news because they don't be shooting niggas.
Original post and Walker's video caused parents to step up and bring their children to the restaurant and offer an apology to Murray. And village officials also offered their support by reaching out to area schools.
We made sure that we had connection with our schools and that they were involved in what we do. The parents are being proactive. They're working with us, and we're going to continue to do that.
I know that parents are coming together, you know what I'm saying, to have my back when it comes with the kids. So it's a good thing.
Early Walker's help for DeAndre Murray's Culver's franchise here in Madison has not ended simply with that post. He also has something planned for this weekend.
And notice how the more we have female leadership, you know, and I'm not even going to pick on the lady who's the business owner, but still, the more female leadership that we have, the harder it becomes to police and punish people who've broken the law. There's something about women's nature. They just have a hard time meting out proper punishments consistently.
Okay, we'll keep it with the driving theme and when things don't work out. Out of control teenagers taking over streets across the nation now. Those scenes from Los Angeles, just a glimpse of what cities are dealing with. And it's not just LA. Right now, city council members in Washington, D.C. are preparing to vote on extending the emergency youth curfew meant to curb these wild events. You're watching Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner here with my co-host Emily Campagno. Joining us today, Molly Line, Fox News correspondent, Lisa Booth, Fox News political analyst, and with us for the first time, Captain Barry Butch Wilmore.
I was just talking about women being in charge, and look what Fox News gives us: a panel of chicks and some smiling guy to play nice with them.
Former NASA astronaut and author of Stuck in Space, as astronauts hope through the unexpected. Amazing. Okay, I can't go on with any stories without touching with you. First of all, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you. I mean, this is pretty surreal for me. I tied in from space one day. I got my topics were done, or my tasks were done, and I tied into the feed. Just turned on my iPad.
On social media, so they're getting bigger as more people. Police in 11 cities have responded to takeovers, some of which have turned violent. Many of them events are organized on social media, so they're getting bigger as more people.
Look at this nationwide map. This is low-key a heat map of Black population density. The Chicago area, what's that, Glendale, Wisconsin? Then also you go, it looks like some of that Black population density is spilling over into the less Black regions like Peabody, Massachusetts, or Braintree. This is Valley Stream, what's that, Connecticut or New York maybe? It's like the Blacks have cars and public transportation now.
Respond. Like this one. Let's take a look. It turned a Wisconsin mall into a madhouse. Videos show hundreds of masked spring breakers invading stores and starting fights. And at least 13 people were arrested in that one. Law enforcement officials are warning viral videos of these events are breeding copycats now. And police departments say they are overwhelmed as a small gathering can devolve into chaos very quickly. Lisa, what's your thought?
Well, I blame Democrats, full stop. I mean, for decades and years now, they have been leading this breakdown of society from all different vantage points, from a policy standpoint to the narrative around policing, also culturally. as well. I mean, you look at the policing angle, all the soft on crime stuff that Democrats have pushed, the elimination of cash bail, abolishing the police. And then you get to culturally with welfare, incentivizing single family homes, punishing marriage as well. You look at the breakdown of God, of, mocking God.
This white lady she just called out single black moms, y'all. This white woman is blaming black women. Could you believe it? The nerve.
Make it stop. Make the hurt stop, please. Like,
as well, mocking the family unit. And then you look at the narrative around policing. You could go back to Michael Brown, hands up, don't shoot. President Obama pushed that lie. He said it was a breakdown of, the policing and, really blamed the police throughout the era. You look at Kamala Harris. She went and told Jacob Blake in Wisconsin that she was proud of him, a guy who showed up at his own victim's home to re-victimize her and then pulled a knife on police officers. Kamala Harris also encouraged people to fund the Minnesota Bail Fund as well and to bail out some of those rioters in Minnesota. Mayor Johnson.
Remember, the Minnesota Bail Fund goes all the way back to the George Floyd protest, and which is what I was saying. I think this teen takeovers kind of like kept that protest chaotic energy going. Raider Gaines in the chat. Shout out to Raider Gaines with the $10 donation. I have the solution, he says. Year-round school, 10 hours a day. The parents in some cases are worse than these kids. There is no culture at home. This could be a way to flip the culture that's getting reinforced. You know what? Part of me agrees with that in a big way. I think we should extend the school year. Maybe summer break should be like 3 weeks instead of 2 months. You just get a 3-week PTO time from school, right? You get PTO from school. That's it. You get 3 weeks off in the hottest part of the year. You give us time to fumigate the building. We got to sterilize all the products and everything, sterilize all the chairs and the tables and everything, and then we send them back in. But my fear about that is then now you're giving them even more time in the indoctrination center, which I'm not opposed to indoctrinating kids into, being good citizens. I just don't like the liberal indoctrination. Schools nowadays, all they do is make the kids weird and gay. And I don't think they need an extra couple of hours a day to do that. Yeah, free labor, internships, and experience. No, you know what? I think we need like apprentice programs or like mandatory Job Corps. Instead of it being like actual public school, I think something like the mandatory Job Corps, especially for these type of teenagers, you're gonna have to get put into some type of training program. Forced labor, I don't know why you want to describe it in such harsh, stark terms, all right? But if you want to call it forced labor, fine. If that's what makes you okay with it, fine.
Somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it.
But shout out to Raider Games, though. I think you're on the right path. Like, you really kind of have to get into the mud. You got to kind of put your hands in the mud to deal with this problem. And we're going to have to lock some of these kids up in either a jail or a school or a training program, all right? Job Corps with armed guards, all right? I'll meet you halfway. Job Corps with armed guards, so you can't leave until you graduate. That's the new law. Shout out to Raider Games, y'all. Support the chat. Smash that super chat button for me, y'all.
Hulk! Smash! Smash you! You make Hulk angry. You not like Hulk angry. Hulk no like fighting girls.
Hey guys, tell me, why did we stop making making the military an option as an alternative to jail? Because I do think having the military alternative to jail would be useful in select cases. I don't think it should be a blanket thing, but I think it should be like in a judge's kind of toolkit. You know, sometimes you want to offer a kid a scared straight type of sentence, and you tell them, listen, I put you in jail for 5 years, or you go to the Army for 3 years, or whatever the minimum contract is, because the military raised the standard. Yeah, well, Trump's going to want you to die in Iran now, so you might want to lower that standard.
And said that law enforcement was a sickness. So you can go down all the way down the line and see how they have led to this degradation of society and this breakdown of society. So I blame the Democrats, full stop.
You know, my guest last hour, Kelly Simpson, was a former U.S. attorney, Emily. And I thought of you when he talked about consequences. And he said this needs a Pavlovian response.
I like that. The bell with the dog.
Yeah.
If we view this through the lens of these are children, then we need to see that they are victims. And they could be victims. And when we talk about the violence, the nature of the crimes that they're engaging in, it is absolutely horrifying. And if you want to have that party see them for what they will, well, then they should understand that there's an epidemic of opportunity and threats to these kids' safety. Now, if you want to look at it through the lens of them being adults, it makes it all the more frightening. And that's what I think we should do. The enforcement mechanism has been totally gutted here. Arrests mean nothing without actual incarceration and consequences that the attorney.
I think it's more frightening to think of them as children. Like you guys remember, well, you guys remember, but there was a book that we had to read when I was in high school. Remember having to read books for high school, and we had to read Lord of the Flies, right? And the phenomenon of Lord of the Flies, which honestly, learning about the world as an adult, you kind of learn the truth of things. Even Lord of the Flies was a bit of a propaganda, Western civilization bad type of trash, but in the story Lord of the Flies, they created a kind of little savage male culture, which basically broke down into violence and murder because, that's what the kids are going to do. That was the propaganda of it all. When I think there was an actual Lord of the Flies type situation where a couple of kids got stranded on an island, and it was nothing like the movie. They actually, they toughed it out until they got rescued, I believe. But it seems like we've unleashed the type of Lord of the Flies energy into the world right now by refusing to police the children. And children left unpoliced will become savages, is I guess the lesson that we forget to learn.
He talked about the reality is that we have demoted family court into some type of summer camp for them. There are no consequences. There's zero accountability, and there's zero incentive for those kids to succeed whatsoever. What options have we provided for them? None in the public school sector. We've talked about the millions of dollars that we've shoved toward the unions. They're not being educated. They're not being cared for. They're not being fed in some instances. We've degraded the family unit, so they're not going home to God. They're not going home to a stable unit. Perhaps their one family member is out working 4 jobs to try to put that food on the table. So instead, they're incentivized by social media.
I feel like you keep talking shit about Black parents. I know we're looking at Los Angeles right now, so there's always going to be a lot more Latinos and Mexicans in the mix, but all those other videos, all those other towns, those were Black kids. This is a heavily Black thing outside of California.
Stay here. New video now from last weekend's chaotic takeover at Bayshore Mall. Glendale Police body and dash cam video released today shows officers breaking up multiple fights, appearing to pepper spray people involved. Our Brendan Jones has more on what this video reveals.
It's video that's pretty hard to watch as Glendale Police responded to several fights around Bayshore Mall last weekend.
Put me on case, please. There's a fight here.
Glendale Police on the scene as several fights erupted Sunday, turning Bayshore into a battleground.
Stay here.
It's the result of a growing trend called teen takeovers. They usually start as a social media post encouraging young people to gather, and can turn chaotic, leading to fights, foot chases,
Oh, you're so tough. You can run.
and arrests. In the worst case, gunshots. A TMJ4 photographer captured this video at another takeover in Milwaukee just a day later. Glendale police say 13 people were arrested at Bayshore that night with charges ranging from disorderly conduct, battery, and resisting an officer. According to a Bayshore spokesperson, guests 17 and under must be accompanied by a supervising adult 21 or over after 3 p.m. daily. Guests who break the code of conduct will be asked to leave.
Damn, you niggas need adult supervision now. Again, parents, you have to have parents now. We're just going to start locking up mamas and aunties and shit. Lock the whole damn family up. The whole family turning big rocks into little rocks, y'all.
During the incident, several violence interrupters were looking to help, and they can be seen in the aftermath of this fight.
You have to have something more formal to prevent this entirely. So programming in place, supports in place. Hopefully we can get the businesses involved.
This nigga runs a nonprofit. He gets money to not solve the problem. Didn't I tell you there was a whole Black patronage network? That's a part of it right there. I'm out here saving the youth.
Do know one teen girl was arrested on weapons charges the week before. 8 were arrested near Staten Lake after another teen takeover in the Loop. And here's how Chicago currently handles these teen takeovers. The city can enforce a curfew before 10 p.m. when large disruptive events occur. In January, City Council advanced an ordinance giving Police Superintendent Larry Snelling the power to declare a teen curfew anytime, anywhere, with at least 12 hours notice, but its future is still uncertain. At the time, Mayor Johnson said he opposed giving one person unilateral control and has rejected proposals to modify the 10 p.m. curfew. Instead, he's called on parents to watch their kids. But we know in a lot of cases that just isn't happening, which brings us back to the curfew debate. Here now to weigh in on this is local activist Jamal Green, whose opinion piece on...
Not Jamal. J-Mall, all right? J-Mall, shout out to J-Mall out here changing the game. You thought you was getting you a Jamal. Getting you a J-Mall.
I'm done. I'm done with life. And it's all Jermaine's fault. It's always Jermaine's fault.
Teen Takeovers was published in the Chicago Tribune last week. Jamal, first of all, want to thank you for coming on, taking time out for us today.
Thank you for having me, Tim.
Let's talk about this. Your op-ed piece was very more like a plan, laying out what you think should be done in this case. You're a parent. Let's start there. Give us your opinion from a parent's point of view, what you think is happening here.
Well, I'll tell you what, none of my boys would be out there doing what these kids are doing. I think there's definitely a cultural problem. We need a cultural reset in these neighborhoods. It's one thing to say, we'll call out to parents and not do anything, or we'll create opportunities. After school programs are not what's going to stop teen takeovers.
You couldn't pull over for 5 minutes to do this interview properly? Oh my God. I hate the modern world sometimes. Like, did you really have, is this some type of activism flex? Like, I'm on my way to give out backpacks right now. I couldn't stop for the movement. The movement never stopped. So I had to do this interview on the run. Like, what is going on here?
Right? Do we need to provide more opportunities? Yes. But one thing that we must provide first is accountability. You can't have opportunity without accountability. And young people should not be able to come downtown to be able to wreak havoc in our neighborhoods because it was a Hyde Park as well, with no accountability for it. We need to hold them accountable. We need to hold the parents accountable. We need to see what's going on at home. The parents got to be accountable for this. And if the parents need help, we can provide support.
No, you see, this is why I don't trust these activism niggas. We can provide the support. You know what that means? Funnel the money through me, and then I'll make sure the parents get the, quote, support they need for their little bastard terrorist children. No. Start cracking heads, all right? Start sending out cops on horseback with long billy clubs. Nobody's going to jail tonight. You're just getting beat up until you leave. That's how you solve these problems, all right? Just put cops on horses and give them like long sticks to beat people with, all right? You don't have to arrest people. You don't have to provide sandwiches for 1,000 people that night. They just go home crying about mom. Crying to mom. Look what the cops did to me. Oh, well, you shouldn't have had your ass down there messing with them good white folks.
The city, but one thing what we cannot allow is our city to be in a place where there's lawlessness and there's no one doing anything about it. We have to jump on this and make sure that we are very ruling with an iron fist on downtown in these neighborhoods. We are not allowing teens to just run rampant, jump on cars, fight each other. Someone pulled a knife on a senior. We should not be allowing this, and we got to stop this right now.
And this is the problem with like liberal, progressive governance. They really don't believe in the public order, and they have no will to kind of impose a level of public order and public decency. And so they'll let these things spiral out of control until the only solution left is like the overwhelming use of force at that point.
Jamal, you and I both grew up in the city of Chicago. I want to point out the fact somebody who watched may be like, where is he? You're on your way to an event, so you took out time to be with us today. But you and I both grew up in the city of Chicago.
Didn't I tell you, look, I'm on my way. The movement never stops. I'm on my way. I had to do this from the back. This is like activism flexing right now.
Heard that man that was in Hyde Park. He said, I would have never done this as a child. I'm sure you feel the exact same way. You mentioned accountability. That is something we've heard time and time again. In your opinion, what does accountability really look like here?
Well, when we have these mass takeovers, the city needs to jump on it immediately. We may need to have mass arrests. We may need to have fines for parents of those who continue to exemplify this behavior over.
At least he finally made it plain. We're going to have to drop the boot on a lot of people. All right. A lot of people are going to have to just be unhappy about the next couple of years of their life because of this night.
And over again. But most importantly, the city got to be prepared for this. We should be monitoring what's going on social media when they're preparing these events and prevent them from happening. We need people on the CTA trains to be able to monitor when young people are gathering there before they get to where they're going. We got to try to stop things before they happen. We need to monitor social media. There's even AI technology where we can really be able to see who's starting the trend and where it's coming from to hold them accountable. And then when things like this happen downtown or Hyde Park or wherever, we need to be ready to act, and we need to act immediately. We got to make sure that certain corridors downtown are protected. When I was young, I would never think that I can go downtown with my friends and wreak havoc like this. I believe in opportunity. I believe in rec centers and night rec centers and things for kids to do.
Night rec centers, y'all. Midnight basketball forever. If we just had enough midnight basketball, the problem is these kids need to be shooting 3-pointers at 12 o'clock in the morning. They need to be on that basketball court 2 a.m. running drills and shooting 3-pointers and practicing on their free throws and shit. Midnight basketball will fix this, y'all.
But one thing I know is that as mayor, Brandon Johnson should not be allowing young people to take over their streets, take over downtown, because this is where business is. These are where companies have their workers. These are where we're trying to lure businesses back because the city is in a deficit. We can't have young people ruining what's going on in our city. This got to be a city for everyone. And that's not anti-youth. That is pro-Chicago, where everybody.
I'm telling you, literally bring in the cavalry. 5-10 cops on horseback and just have them run through this crowd. Not even run, that's a little too dangerous. Have them gallop gently through the crowd, okay? And just keep the guys on horseback out there until the crowd breaks up. You get too close to the horse, I smack you in the face with this billy club. I'm telling you, it will work. It's a plot so crazy, it just might work.
After several instances of large numbers of teenagers taking over downtown Detroit, city leaders say they're coming up with a plan to address it.
The viral trend is known as a downtown takeover, a coordinated effort to swarm city streets. It's happening across the country, including here in Detroit. Genovese spoke with Mayor Mary Sheffield about the city's plans to address it.
Hey, look, most people are afraid of horses, bro. Your average person has never really been like really close to a horse before. Like, I haven't even ridden a horse since I was a little kid, but horses are huge. They're only a handful of horse breeds are like tiny, what are they called? Shetland ponies or whatever. Most horses are huge, okay? A guy coming at you full gallop on a horse, bro, it will kill you. And this is why, like, if you ever watch one of those old movies, like watch Braveheart or something, where they have like a cavalry charge and the guys form a shield wall and they put their pikes out with the spears to like kind of make a defensive line against the cavalry charge. You understand how brave that was, how nerve-wracking that final moment, waiting for the clash of horse on metal. A horse coming at you at full gallop, bro, it's one of the historically most frightening things ever.
Well, there is certainly some perception that the city of Detroit, along with DPD, have been somewhat silent on this issue since these teen takeovers began. However, according to Mayor Mary Sheffield, there is a lot happening behind the scene to make sure they don't get out of control.
So it's a comprehensive interdepartmental all hands on deck approach to ensure that we're addressing the needs of our young people.
In a one-on-one interview at DPD headquarters, Mayor Mary Sheffield telling CBS Detroit the social media trend called Teen Takeover is top of mind with city officials, police, and community intervention groups. But Mayor Sheffield says the city is taking a holistic approach to addressing this issue. And
what does that even mean, a holistic approach? You're gonna light incense and potpourri? You're gonna do a sage cleansing of downtown Detroit? What does that mean?
Believes it's also an opportunity to serve the youth.
We didn't experience what other cities did as far as safety. Kids came out, they wanted to hang out, they wanted a place to something to do. And so we're trying to make sure that we're addressing that need of making sure that young people have a safe space to be occupied and engaged throughout the upcoming summer months.
That said, Mayor Sheffield says curfews will be in effect and announced soon. And parental responsibility is a must moving forward. And says it's also important the entire community is involved as not to overburden law enforcement.
Intervention, prevention, and enforcement. It's not just enforcement. I don't believe we can police our way out of it. I think our young people need.
Liberals always use that line. I don't believe we can police our way out of it. Have anybody heard of what's going on? What's that country with Bukele? Was it El Salvador? They policed their way out of it. The model has been proven. All right. If you take all of your hardcore, your most hardcore gang members and put them in an iron box and you make them lie down cheek to cheek, it gets results. All right. Things get done. But you got to lock up some judges too. That's a whole other thing.
More than just enforcement.
And I'm told there is a special meeting tonight between the organizers of these teen takeovers and the city of Detroit, DPD, community intervention groups. And also this Friday, there is going to be a big announcement. Mayor Sheffield calling it a summer strategy to address some of the issues among the youth moving forward. A
summer strategy. And shout out to Rational Baz, member for 3 months. He says, same leftist lies since the 80s. Same drama. Look, and I made this comment a bunch of times before. You niggas been trying to save the community. You've been trying to save the youth since before I got here. I'm starting to think you'll never get it done. You niggas are never going to save the community, bro. Let's give it up.
Welcome back to The Factor Uncensored, a major concern across the country. I know you've seen it. Our youth at the center of chaos, much of it playing out on social media. It's called teen takeovers, fights going viral to, in some cases, deadly violence. Just last week, spring breakers defying the law, and it's happening everywhere. ATL, D.C., New York, here in Texas, Houston, Galveston. Let's take a look. It's a growing trend across the country that's ending in property damage, violence, and even bloodshed. Some are calling it swarming. Others call it by its more popular name, teen takeovers.
These takeovers need to stop. They need to come to an end. They're causing chaos and violence, and we want the public to be safe.
Investigators say teenagers from Georgia to Texas are gathering in public places, from parking lots to neighborhoods. And what follows is disturbing. Police in various cities say the gatherings start on social media, where hundreds of young people meet up and disaster ensues. There have been shootings, drug use, weapons, and even murder. Law enforcement agencies around the country are asking parents to step up before their children's lives are ruined forever.
Be smart, know where your child is, not just this weekend, every day.
So the question is, what's causing all of this?
It's like we have a national call for better parenting. And they're almost all pointed at the Black community. Black America has a collective parenting problem.
And how do we deal with it? Joining us for this conversation, educator Arnetta Murray, community leader Andre Otley from Community Leader, Reginald OG1 Gordon, 20-year-old Gabriel Shepard, and Cartel Bow. So Gabriel, when you see young people not too far removed from your age behaving like this, what are your thoughts about it? Do you think there is an actual problem, or it's blown out of proportion?
When I think about a problem, I always, I point back to the parents, because it's like, if the teens are out in public acting a certain way, that means that they feel comfortable doing that, which means they were doing it in private, talking to the parents, and the parents are allowing that to happen as they're growing up. And then once they get in public, they start acting out, start acting crazy.
And Andre, what kind of problems are we seeing, if any at home, that would foster this kind of behavior?
It's a lack of accountability. And I think it's systemic, from the school systems to the homes and community at large.
The thing is, it's not even that hard being honest about the problem, I think. It's just that the solutions are so difficult. It's almost like it shocks the mind to really approach the proper solutions to it.
There's a lack of accountability, and it just manifests when they're out in public. And so I just believe, man, that in the years that, we've been doing this work, from a Boys' Rites of Passage program with Mufasa's Pride, we're in our 16th year. And over the years, these boys have to be held accountable. And like he just said, at home first, at school, there's just a systemic failure of accountability across the board. And so what you see with this swarming is just the manifestations of little to no accountability. And we got to start there.
All right. And you talked about school education. Arnetta, you're in the classroom, boots on the ground there. Do you see anything that could lead to this behavior after the school bell rings?
Well, it has to be, as you said, the parents have to be involved. Some kind of way the parents have to play a part, because they're getting
Everybody's blaming the parents. I'm telling you, we all know what the problem is. We just don't like the nature of the solution.
How dare you say that we are not interested in families in the Black community?
Everybody's dropping them off at these different events or where they're meeting up. So you have to make sure that the parents are aware that, hey, what's going on? Dropping them off? Are you dropping them off unsupervised? Why are you okay with that? And if they're sneaking out, then that's some other issues going on. So even in the school system, I was telling OG earlier, even when the kids are at PE, we have to be around. We have to have teachers around the perimeter watching the kids to make sure they don't hurt themselves or get in a fight. They're going to have to do something like that to stop this swarming, because it's just out of hand right now.
OG, you have been mentoring and reaching out to young people for decades here in the city of Houston. What do you see as a possible solution to address this? And number one, do you see, is there a problem?
You know, this is my 43rd year doing this kind of work, dealing with our young people, starting with that Scared Straight program that I put together. So I've seen generation of young people that transform to what we are today. It's an African proverb to go like this here: a child that is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel the warmth. We are dealing with the traumatized violence that our kids are expressing out.
African proverbs have finally entered the chat.
That we don't deal with. A kid that is not, the trauma that's not dealt with, will give it back to the community. That's what we see coming from our kids not being.
Why are the kids so traumatized? What's happening to the kids that's so traumatic? Who is traumatizing the youth?
Being treated through the COVID virus, through the gun violence. I'm dealing with young people right now, middle schoolers, 17-year-olds in the middle school. So we have a real big problem when we're dealing with our children. And our children just showing it out loud in public how they feel on what they're going through. They're going to express themselves one way or another. They're going to get their attention one way or another from us, either through gun violence or through tearing some stuff up. So either we pay attention to them and cater to their needs, which is their trauma.
Cater to their needs. Everybody wants to hug it out.
To sit down and get them to talk about what you're actually going through, we're going to get more of this and even worse.
All right. Cartel, you have a lot of young fans out there. What could you say, what could you do in your role as, a celebrity? They buy your music, come to see you. What could you tell young people to try and get them on the right path?
I believe in seeing where a problem comes from and looking at a solution. It's bigger than that. You know what I'm saying? For us to just say, oh, look at those kids and those kids, you're wrong, because you're not looking at what's going on at home. It's three factors that happen to determine who a kid is in this world. It's what's going on at home, what's going on with school, and what's going on in that phone. And if you ain't got no control on what's going on in that phone, what's going on in school, and what's going on at home, it's going to be reckless behavior taking place. Now, whenever you have a bunch of kids in the masses, that's a rave, that's a movement, that's a feeling, that's a vibe. I don't believe it's nothing wrong with the kids getting together. I believe the solution is saying, okay, when y'all get together like this, let's do something else. Let's not fight. You know what I'm saying? Let's get together and build something.
No, the problem is literally them getting together. That's literally the problem. And this is like a human phenomenon. You don't just create large, rowdy masses of people with no particular aim. Nothing good comes from that. And so, like, the whole purpose of these teen takeovers is to gather the kids into one large area to create such a massive youth that they can't really be controlled by anybody. And then they can just do whatever they feel like doing in the moment. Like, it's the get together that's literally the problem.
Let's get some cars together and show got the coolest cars like back in the Gap how we used to do. Let's get together and go play sport, go play basketball or play football. Let's play 12 on 12 and everybody out there have fun. This, that, and that, like we do in the country. It's not about the kids getting together. That's beautiful because they showing that they can come together. There's a lot of places that kids can't come together. It's about what they doing when they come together. Let's come up with a more fun alternative that has no violence involved. How about that?
All right. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we'll continue on.
You acted like these kids have like a youth coordinator organizing this whole thing, right? We just got to find the youth coordinator and get him to introduce, basketball and board games to the kids, and that'll fix it all.
On that point, what are the alternatives out there to keep those kids busy and put that energy into positivity? We'll be back here.
You know what? And I think I'm a little bit done with this right now. I got something else on my mind at the moment. I want to jump to, well, actually, hold on. Before we do that, let's go to Brandon Johnson real quick. We got to go to Brandon Johnson. I forgot about him.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Mayor, I know you addressed the
more
team.
Sports.
Well, belated happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
With regard to the teen trend last night in Hyde Park, last Thursday it was a nice day. Problems. Last night, fairly nice day until the storms came in, but problems. Is this something that Chicagoans are going to have to get used to, that whenever the weather gets nice, that teens are going to just gather and some of them are just going to misbehave?
Well, look, we've
Break
had
the law?
Well, we've had many nice days, and we don't have, as what you've described, as problems every time there's a nice day, right? That's not true. There are multiple nice days where you don't have that type of reckless behavior. And of course we're not going to get used to that. Look, because here's the thing. We have had these type of gatherings well before the incidents in which you've described. This has gone on for, quite frankly, for decades in this city. They have.
Teens been running wild for decades. And Miss Cantrell, he is incredibly weird. I'm just watching this guy's mannerisms as he kind of like talks it and speaks at these press conferences. He's a very odd guy. Can't imagine ever voting for him. He's like an uncanny. You ever heard of the uncanny valley, where you're looking at a fake thing, but he looks almost human. It's just something about him. He looks almost real. It's like they almost made a real black man, but we got this guy instead. He looks so lifelike.
I think the difference is now they're recorded, but they're not new. Now, what is new is our strategy, right? Where our police department, when they see these type of postings encouraging young people to congregate in a particular area, in a way that could be detrimental to them, many of those gatherings get intercepted before they ever materialize. What I've said repeatedly is that we have to ensure that individuals that are responsible for these gatherings that lead towards someone being harmed or even worse, their life being lost, we have to hold them accountable. But we also have to make sure that we're providing more opportunities for young people. So if every gathering occurred based upon posting, then I would follow your logic, but it doesn't coincide with reality. And with that being said, we can still make sure that we hold people accountable while also giving people opportunity.
And for those kids, I mean, I hate to say, but it seems that you want to water down the behavior, and I can go back and quote you, but I mean, they're breaking the law when they're vandalizing, when they're causing problems downtown, are they not? Is that breaking the law? And what accountability, is there enough accountability, do you think, for that?
Okay, I want to just go back to my words here. I believe that I actually said that they were reckless and dangerous. So reckless and dangerous behavior can also be, as we all can draw very simple conclusions, anything that is reckless and dangerous could also be illegal, but it may not be, right? I mean, you could probably speak to some moments in your life, maybe as a preacher's kid, maybe not, where you may have done something reckless, but that was not illegal. Right? So I don't want to automatically assume that reckless and dangerous could be illegal. Otherwise, I believe all of us in this room then could be up for charges. Now, there are reckless and dangerous proclivities that could be illegal. And let me be very clear. The incident that you referred to a week ago, I believe there were 20 arrests. Is it 20 or 24?
24 citations for curfew.
And 8 arrests, right? So that's accountability. So that's all I'm saying is that it's not just on policing though. At some point as a parent, I have to take responsibility for the direction of my own children. I can't just leave it up to the school. I can't just leave it up to institution. I can't just leave it up to the public space to create accountability. That's a responsibility for all of us. What I'm offering is what I'm able to do as mayor of the city of Chicago. So our police department has the authority to hold people accountable if their reckless and dangerous behavior is either illegal or it's just simply reckless and dangerous, and that those individuals need to be held accountable. But here's the last thing, though. We arrested people last week, correct? And there were citations, correct? Did it stop young people from gathering the very next week? It didn't. This is all I'm saying, you all. If we're just simply saying,
I'm telling you, try the cavalry approach. A couple of cavalry charges, these niggas gonna be back home in their neighborhoods trying to figure out something else to do. Every time they get up there in the crowd, you just bust out the horses and the lances and all that. The horses and the billy clubs, I'm telling you. Don't even lock them up. Locking them up is too much paperwork.
accountability, then perhaps your conclusion could have some merit. That in and of itself won't preclude individuals from engaging in reckless and dangerous behavior. That's why it has to be both. It actually proves my case that if we just simply stick to this accountability mechanism, you would think that people being arrested and going to jail would be the deterrent. Since it's not for everyone, what else can we do as a collective, not just Mayor Johnson, but I'm talking about the entire city of Chicago, to ensure that young people have a place or spaces that they can go where they can feel safe, and in the event they show up and they behave irresponsibly, that we can hold them accountable. It's both and.
Good afternoon. And
good afternoon, Mark.
Now I want to jump to something else. Something I found recently. Some content that looks interesting. I like looking backwards into the past. We're going to kind of switch gears a little bit here. Appreciate you guys following the show this far along. We are definitely into the second act now. And found this documentary, or I don't know what to call this. Is a piece of Black history. It's called Still a Brother, The Negro Middle Class in 1968.
I'd like to have a summer home on the lake. I'd like to have a yacht and belong to a North Shore Yacht Club. I like to wear suits from Brooks Brothers. All Americans, and I am an American. We think this way. There's no other way to think. I can't think African. I can't think Irish. I can't think Norwegian. I have to think in the society in which I live, which is a white society. So their values are imposed on me, and I think this kind of way. I don't think of myself as being a Negro. Never until recently have I really been concerned that I am a Negro. I thought all the while that I was an American.
Very interesting commentary on this in Life magazine several years ago when they had the sit-ins on Route 40 to try to stamp out discrimination. And they had asked a lady there who ran just a hash joint almost, why she discriminated against all of these Black people when some of them were diplomats from African nations. And her comment was simply that they all looked like just plain run-of-the-mill niggas to her.
Doesn't it feel like we fell off crazy? There's this phenomenon that's taking over the right-wing parts of the internet. Just watching video of street scenes from 50, 75, 100 years ago in America. And for a lot of the right-wing, it's watching how white America used to be, or even in Europe, watching how white Europe used to be. Actually, I think the Boston Red Sox got in trouble recently. They created a video just showing what's Boston Red Sox Park? Was it Fenway Park or something like that? They showed a video of, or was it Fenway Park? I think I forgot the name of the Boston stadium, but they showed a video of the Boston baseball stadium just like 50 years ago, and they were like, it was 100% white. And Boston, the baseball team, the Red Sox, they got in trouble for that. They had to like apologize for being racially insensitive by pointing out how monochromatic America was just a few years ago. And then even Black America too. When I look at old video of Black America, even watching in that capacity, it feels like there's something that's been lost from the 50s. It feels like there's something that we've just kind of forgotten. As a people, we've all been diminished in ways that you really can't ignore.
Introducing Marsha King.
This is Robert Jones, age 38, native-born American. He holds down an important job, owns a yacht that sleeps 8, and vacations each summer on fashionable Martha's Vineyard.
Owns a yacht that sleeps 8. Oh my God. When I bought a little shitty boat, you could barely take a nap in it. He owns a yacht that sleeps 8 comfortably.
He, his wife Marlene, and their 2 children live on a tree-lined suburban street just across the Hudson River from New York City. Bobby Jones, as his friends call him, is a graduate of...
Bobby Jones? Oh my God. And he had a dope name. And he had a cool-ass name. Nigga, Bobby Jones.
New York City. Bobby Jones, as his friends call him, is a graduate of New York University with a law degree from New York Law School.
Yeah, I think that was her real hair too, by the way. They didn't really have a lot of weave back then. She probably had a perm or whatever chicks used to do. Put mayonnaise and hot comb in that bitch. I don't know, but I know that's real hair.
Just across the Hudson River from New York City. Bobby Jones, as his friends call him, is a graduate of New York University with a law degree from New York Law School. He and his family are among some 5 million members of a unique and little-known group in the United States, the Negro middle class. Bobby Jones.
You know, I think the Negro middle class, middle class Black America, especially going back into like the 50s, there was a lot of light-skinnedness up in there. I won't even deny that. I think there was 2 factors at play. Obviously, having different genetics. Well, I'm like, you have a different network. Maybe, you know, my father has this, my mother has that. So you might get a little bit of a leg up economically or even just socially or whatever. But at the same time, I do think that most of Black America has some level of white genetics at this point. That's why we don't all look African. Most of Black America has a little bit of admixture at this point. So even if your mom and dad aren't just black and white, generally speaking, Black Americans have just a lot more European genetic affinity than, say, a straight-up African.
His counterparts are to be found in every state of the Union. 1 out of every 4 Negro families can be said to be middle class today, which is better than twice the figure of only 10 years ago. Most are still on the lower middle income rungs in the $7,000 to $15,000 a year category, though others, such as Bobby Jones, do much better. This is not to say, however, that the millennium has come. According to the United States Department of Labor Statistics, Negro median income is still little better than half that of whites, and whites' income is increasing at a faster rate. Moreover, 1/10 of all white families now have incomes in excess of $15,000 a year. Only 1 in 40 Negro families does as well.
George Washington Bridge. They was getting money back in
But
the
there are
day.
increasing numbers of Negroes whose incomes are rising
Living up in
as
Westchester.
their qualifications multiply and racial barriers to their advancement slowly lessen.
What I'd like to do is to get a complete and thorough review of this to make sure that we have everything in there. And at the same time,
Bobby Jones, whose father was a post office worker in Boston, supervises a staff of 50, mostly whites.
current in the model cities.
Look at Bobby Jones. All these white men in his office, and he telling them what to do. God damn it, that nigga Bobby Jones, he was something else. I tell you, that boy Bobby Jones was a special nigga. A Negro. He was a special nigger.
Staffing and budget
That's what they
items.
used to call them
We
back
have,
then. That's what they used to call them back in the 50s. They was called niggers back then.
Included rehabilitation specialists. We have.
But does income alone determine what is understood by the term middle class?
Called the American sense, which implies a style of life.
Dr. St. Clair Drake, sociologist from Roosevelt University in Chicago.
Already don't like this nigga. Doctor, sociologist from Chicago. This nigga was woke in the 50s, I guarantee you. And he about to say some woke 1950s shit. I could be wrong, but I already don't trust this nigga. The fact that he got a doctorate in sociology from Chicago.
I tended to conceptualize class that way myself. One of the ways I like to think about it is this. Some years ago when Horace Caton and I were working on Black Metropolis, we were suddenly struck by the fact that you could find two Negroes who worked in the stockyards as what we used to like to call cattle eviscerators, taking out the insides of the cattle as they came along on the assembly line. And let us assume that both of them were making about $400 a month. One comes home and on the way home stops by the local tavern, imbibes a good bit of alcohol.
How you gonna say he's more black than the Bobby guy when this nigga isn't 100% African either? Look at his nose, look at his chin, look at his lips. Like, Black Americans are just not, we're not jungle niggas anymore, all right? We don't have pure West African phenotypical features anymore. Black Americans just, we are becoming a whole unique thing, especially before all this extra immigration. Like, even back then. And honestly, I think there's a difference too when you think about like the migration from the South, where all the dark-skinned slave niggas, they started to move up into the big cities where this nigga lived. And then you start to see a clear distinction. Like, you got, you know, the blacks and then the blacks. And everybody was worried about the blacks coming to town.
By the local tavern, imbibes a good bit of alcohol. By the time he gets home, he's in a very bad mood. He knocks on the door and it isn't opened quickly. He yells up at his wife and she sticks her head out the window and curses him. And then everybody up and down the street begins to throw up the windows and look. She comes out and he beats her and they finally get on in the house and they both start taking their drinks and the fight goes on. Now the other man takes his 400 and he passes the bar, turning his head the other way. And when he arrives at home, his wife also doesn't open the door quickly enough. But he waits until he gets inside, and then the fight starts inside. And when he gets ready to beat her, he pulls down the shades to make sure that the neighbors don't see. And then having got that part of it over, they sit down at the kitchen table and decide how much of the money they're going to put aside for the educational fund for the kids and how much they're going to put in church next Sunday. And this is the end of the day. We call the second a middle class way of life and the first a lower class way of life. The point I was trying to make was they both might have the same amount of money, but the way in which they behave, the aspirations they have for themselves and their children differ. And
okay, you know what? He actually made a solid point there, though. That's a cultural issue. You know, the culture of poverty versus like the aspirational culture of the middle class, you know. I don't know if that everybody's going home beating up their wives at the end of the day, but you know, let him tell it.
Therefore, money alone, as we would see it, doesn't make one middle class. Now, if you want to look at American society in three levels, say an upper, middle, and a lower class, you might peg it this way. An upper class puts the emphasis on refinement, the middle class on respectability, and the lower class on survival.
Middle-class lifestyle, however, would be rather difficult to arrive at and to maintain were it not for some economic basis that is more than minimal.
I've never really thought myself as middle class. I said I'm not trying to be facetious, but
what is that, a house party? Nobody's drunk. Ain't nobody auntie twerking. The babies are there, safe and comfortable.
To maintain.
What type of non-nigga shit is this? Look at these niggers. These uppity niggers having a dinner party like white folks. They're standing around discussing things of relevance. Disgusting. I can't believe I'm watching this.
Were it not for some economic basis that is more than minimal.
I've never really thought myself as middle class.
Nobody's slamming dominoes. That is a little light-skinned baby. But hey, the black upper class is full of light-skinned babies. All right, what are you gonna do? It is what it is. But ain't nobody slamming dominoes. It ain't no refrigerator full of 40 ounces or whatever.
I said I'm not trying to be facetious, but there are the differences, and I don't think that that I can overlook these or gloss over these by saying they don't exist. Well, the fact that I have a job to go to every day and a responsibility to discharge with respect to that job, I think is a basic difference, because there are people that are demonstrating for rights that have not a job, and for them this is most crucial, because they can't feed their families, and I can feed mine. They can't draw a paycheck down, and I can, and this gives a certain pride and respect to the individual that I don't think they can have.
And, you know, there is just a true phenomenon that kind of that perturbs Black American culture. And honestly, this is a phenomenon that it's anywhere in the world that's had like colonization. This kind of the distinction between the white who was, you know, in the upper class and the controlling group at one point, and then you have the Black or the non-white, and they're distinctly in the lower class and they're distinctly not controlling anything. And then you have what a lot of people called, in disparaging terms, the buffer class, which would be like the mixed children that come from those two groups. And those mixed children will almost always fare better than the general population of like the lower class, but they'll be more visually connected to that lower class. And then for lots of reasons, it creates resentment. It creates social barriers. It creates a little culture within itself. Like within Black America, there's this little phenomenon of like all the light-skinned niggas trying to get with all the light-skinned women and keeping their family light, bright, and damn near white. Like there's a phenomena like that in Black America. And like Latin America has a version of that too. Like what like blanqueamiento or some shit they call it. But there is a issue with just calling it, let's just call it the buffer class, right? There was just a phenomenon there that I don't even necessarily want to pick a side in or say anybody's right or wrong. It's just a function of reality, just having these two ethnic groups and these two racial groups, you know, next to each other effectively.
What happens if a middle-class Negro loses his job?
Economically, he's no longer middle class. He's unemployed, and that's an interesting fact. This Negro middle class that we're talking about is a very, very precarious thing. Someone who came out of teaching, who can get a job perhaps with the Job Corps or with some other teaching-oriented kind of.
You know, I'm really struck at how, and maybe this is just too, like, obviously these are like college-educated professionals, but Black folk back then, unless you're really talking to the ghetto, Black folk back then just sounded way more competent than a lot of Black people today. And I mean, like, and I'm specifically talking about like the professional educated class. Like, we were just we were producing a lot better quality Negroes back then. The quality of Negro has dropped dramatically over the last 50 years, is all I'm saying.
Occupation can go from $7,000 a year 1 year to $15,000 or $18,000 a year with some of the anti-poverty programs the next year. Of course, if he lives up to this $15,000 or $18,000 a year and his project is not refunded, he's no longer middle class.
Still, for those who customarily think of nearly all Negroes as being near the poverty level, the present picture in jobs, business, housing, and social activity within the Negro middle class is a striking one. Richard Clark, owner-manager of a New York personnel consultants firm, says he's in the business of creating instant middle-class Negroes by finding them white-collar jobs.
It's called a Job Opportunity Center, and we've brought together 750 Negro college graduates, 1/3 of whom are June 1967 graduates, and the other 2/3 experienced people who were disillusioned with the level of jobs that they hold. There are 120.
Now, you got to understand, at the same time this is happening in 1968, you know what else was going on in the late 60s? Revolution. The communist Black Revolution. The Panthers and Malcolm X and all that. I don't know if Malcolm had died yet. I forget exactly when, but this is the same time period.
20 interviewers here representing 33 different companies who have in mind employment. I think it's an interesting paradox that at the time that people are concerned about race rioting and looting and burning and things of this kind.
This was actually, you're absolutely right, Mr. O. This is when Black people became communist, right? This is the last clear image of Black America before we were consumed by communism. And we were just an effective, competitive, separate racial group from white America. At least not, let's not say all, but there was enough of it that it was a proven model. But the civil rights gains effectively broke that model. It's something that they put into the culture, broke that model.
That over 750 to 1,000 Negroes will be marching into this place quietly, not protesting, not rioting, not burning, not looting, but looking for an economic chance in the mainstream of American life. In a manner of speaking, we're involved in a sort of a mass token acceptance kind of a thing.
Equality of job opportunity cannot be taken for granted, however, nor can promotions. Current median income for Negro college graduates is just under $6,000. The white graduate earns over $9,000.
Damn, they were only making $6,000 a year back then? Wow, inflation is crazy.
But what of Negro-owned and operated businesses? Are they, as some observers charge, threatened with decline?
I know there are some people who have said that there are less or fewer Negro businesses today than there were 20 years ago. I think if we think in terms of large numbers of people in business, perhaps this may be true. But I think Negroes are engaged in bigger businesses. They are doing larger volumes of business. I think they are in more diversified businesses. I think all you have to do is read Ebony magazine and see all the kinds of businesses that Negroes are in.
Governor Kerner, I'd like to know if you attended.
Yes.
Damn, you said a car was $1,200 back then? You mostly can't find a car for $1,200 anymore. Like, not even a used car. Because our used car market is totally shot. You know, you guys remember that 1877 cars for kids, KARS cars for kids? Apparently that was a part of a big scam that ruined our used car market. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you it all, but there's a tiny hat at the end of the story.
I will be there. I remembered that I was supposed to go, so I will be there. Yeah. Okay, you can call them and tell them that I'll be there. Dear Jeff, this is just a little note to tell you how sorry we are that you will be leaving the home office to take up your duties as Vice President.
Look, niggas had solid American names back then. John H. Johnson. Strong black man name. John Johnson. Owner of Johnson Publishing, right? None of this Nkrumah, Umfifi, Umbabwe, Diallo, none of this African Afro-Bombada bullshit. My name is John Johnson, and I own Johnson Publishing, all right? Black man in Black America doing Black man American things.
Will be leaving the Home Office to take up your duties as Vice President.
The Johnson Publishing Company of Chicago is one of the country's most successful Negro business firms, with gross advertising revenues running into the millions. Its 250 employees, including a few whites, engage in a coast-to-coast operation.
I noticed how he said that like a flex. It's 250 employees, including a few whites. Got the white man on the payroll, nigga. Got the white man on the payroll. You don't even know how big of a flex that is for a nigga. I pay these white people. White people used to pay me. Now I pay them. They work for me now.
These blacks.
Say that he plays an excellent game of poker, and I just told Louis Robinson, who called me, that Jeff would be out there and to get the boys ready for it.
Negro business.
There is a bit of burning, like fiery, angry nostalgia that comes with watching this kind of thing, because it almost makes you, it really does beg the question, what happened to us, you know? Like staring across the table at a woman that you used to love. Like, what happened to us, you know? How did we become like this, you know?
In general, however, remains in the small business category. Discrimination by lenders, suppliers, and insurance companies often makes their success a precarious one, especially now that many larger white firms have recently discovered the $32 billion Negro market under their very noses.
The Negro market was a $32 billion market. Wow. Incredible. And you niggas told me you was all oppressed and shit. I bet you none but black people live in these big ass houses. Well, they're not even huge, but back then these were huge houses. For the 50s, for 1968, that's like a McMansion. In 1968, that was a McMansion. But also, this is kind of what people were building back then.
Aspirations among Negroes are often centered on better housing, to an extent which frequently outrivals those of their white counterparts. Atlanta, Georgia's flourishing Negro middle class is widely noted for its extensive and highly status-conscious new development areas, such as this one in the prestigious Collier Heights section.
Yeah, Atlanta's like that. I lived down by Atlanta once. Niggas got money. They like to act like niggas, but they got money.
Built and financed by local Negro businessmen. In the past, white banks traditionally turned down Negro loan applications. Eventually, black institutions pooled their resources and moved into the vacuum. Today, Atlanta white firms are belatedly trying to outbid black banks and black contractors for a share of one of the fastest growing markets in town. But whether they seek private houses or high-rise apartments, such as in these Chicago cooperatives, most Negro home seekers still find themselves barred from all but largely segregated areas. Even those who could afford better are often trapped in substandard, overcrowded units, while such better housing as does become available is swamped with frustrated applicants who also seek quality education for their children. No matter where they live or with whom they work, when it comes to social activities, most Negro Americans, frozen out of the white man.
Goddamn debutante's ball. This is the whitest shit I've ever seen in my life. And shout out to Black Latina with the $4.99 donation. She says, what did I say that you put me in timeout? I didn't put you in timeout. I typically don't time people out. That's what the wrenches and the moderators are for. One of the moderators probably put you in timeout, and I typically don't I don't like to second guess the mods. And and if Ms. Cantrell puts you in timeout, well then tough. But I appreciate your support. You said something that pissed off the mods. It is what it is. Life goes on. You're back at it. But thank you for supporting the show. Appreciate y'all coming out. Like the video. We are taking a look at Black America back in the day. These niggas was debutantes. What the hell, y'all? Debutante niggas. I can't believe the white and the caucasity of it all is just throwing me right now, y'all.
I'm telling you, man. This the reason why I be hating niggas, man. I'm telling you, man. It just be us. I be hating niggas, man.
Oh, the guys in the chat, I ain't feeling you right now.
Mainstream constitute a veritable society within a society, largely paralleling but separate from the various levels of social structure found among whites. This Waldorf Astoria debutante cotillion, given semi-annually by the New York chapter of a leading Negro women's club called the Girlfriends, is virtually identical to those held here by white groups, save for color.
The white cotillions, they have their junior leagues. Of course, you know there is no colored junior league.
Do they still have these type of events with Black people? You know, this is very Jack and Jill coded. You're getting like really upper crust Black America right here. They don't normally let you film this type of shit. They don't want people to know they exist. You know, it's a secret society type shit.
Their junior leagues. Of course, you know there is no colored junior league. Well, the Girlfriends is a very friendly group of girls. They do charitable work, civic work, and it's a social group. I have a lot of white friends, and I think
you know, I kind of made a prediction, you know, on a different concept, but same idea. You know, as we try to tear the roots out from under white America, we also tear the roots out from under Black America as well, and ultimately you leave no one with any safe place to stand. Which maybe that's the ultimate goal anyway, but you know, let me not think too hard. I've had way too much to think. It's early.
the ones that I have, they like me as me, and they like to work along with me. But I don't think that they want to particularly invite me to their homes, to their parties, which is perfectly all right with me. And you wouldn't want to go. Oh, I mean, their friends and I probably wouldn't have anything in common, and we probably would. We don't know that. We
These ladies remind me of my grandmother. My grandmother is probably of this age group. Definitely of this complexion too. My grandma is about that shade of light-skinned.
meet together on certain basis, but I don't expect you to be invited to their parties, and I'm sure they wouldn't enjoy coming to mine.
In recent years, however, there has been some increase in integrated social affairs, such as at the annual Evening of Elegance held last summer at Mrs. Sidney Poitier's Westchester estate. Invited guests paid $60 per couple for an elaborate evening of cocktails, dining, and dancing.
I think that many...
What is it that you keep trying to remind me of? When hold up, you constantly saying that so many of these people are mixed, which yes, a lot of these people are mixed. That's just, you know, life in Black America, right? But my initial point was that Black America is a mixed group almost by definition compared to, like, say, Africans or whatever. This is why I say we are no longer African. We have more genetically in common with white America than we do with a nigga from Nigeria. We all have a little bit of, we all have some drops of white blood in our DNA at this point. That's just kind of what Black America is now. We've been side by side in this country for too long. There's going to be a lot of humping in the bushes, all right? People be making babies. A lot of these babies come out shades of gray.
People in this country who are white, they come in contact with Negroes through advisory boards and benefit committees, and this in itself brings about a certain amount of communication. People can sit down over a cocktail and talk about the world's problems. This in itself is a form of dovetailing into society, into the mainstream. These are the people who are called upon to contribute to every cause, to every organization, to every social agency. $100 a ticket for this, $200 for that.
Hey, let me know something. Let me ask the chat real quick. Put a 1 in the hat if you remember when church ladies used to have really nice hats that they spent a lot of money on. The hat itself would come in like a furniture box or something like that. It would be like a hard case box. The box itself would have like a nice material on it. It might even look like the goddamn hat, right? They used to have really expensive, they would have low-key hat competitions back in the day. I remember that time. And that was like my grandmother's time. Like by the time my mom came around, chicks stopped doing that as much. And now, who knows what they're doing in church now? They probably got twerking figurines or something. They probably got some new monstrosities now.
To go somewhere for the benefit of someone else. The entire involvement of these groups involves participation and giving of themselves, of their money, of their time to those less fortunate than they. In this respect, yes, there is a Negro society.
Black people playing tennis. Oh, this how you know you bougie when you're trying to play tennis, yo. I tried to take up tennis at one point because, I needed a sport that wasn't basketball. You know you bougie when you're trying to get athletic away from niggas. Like, I still want to be athletic. I still got to be in shape. I just don't want to be around the pores when I do it.
Man, when I take my family on a vacation, we want to relax. We don't want any problems with prejudiced white folks. So we go where we know we won't be bothered.
That may be down home to visit the family, up to Canada or Cape Cod, or even abroad to Europe or Africa. One popular vacation spot among Negroes is the resort town of Oak Bluff, Massachusetts, situated on Martha's Vineyard, an island just off Cape Cod.
Oh, is this the Inkwell? Remember when Lorenz Tate made that movie, The Inkwell? And it was literally about this type of environment. That kind of, and I think it was kind of this time period too. It was like the early 70s, late 60s, maybe. This is literally The Inkwell. It was a good movie back then too. Not a lot of people might really remember that movie. It's one of those movies I don't see like in syndication that often, but it was like just a sweet movie about a little microcosm of Black America that most people don't really get to see because it's almost always New Jack City or some shit like that.
For fun and relaxation, thousands journey here each summer from all over the country, forming a sizable Negro colony which gets along with, but keeps somewhat aloof from, local and vacationing whites.
A sizable Negro colony that gets along with, but keeps a distance from the white people. Which nowadays, these very Black people will be crying. They would be crying bloody racism, demanding to be sat at every white table. I want to be a part of every white meeting. Those white guys over there, they don't like me. They must be racist. Let's go start a protest. Let's force our way into those people's lives and like make everybody hate us. You see, back then it was just, you know what? We got money too. We're over here doing our own thing. Oh, your house is nice. It's really nice for you. My house is nice too.
Doctors, teachers, and other professionals are prominent, and many have bought and maintained summer homes for their wives and children.
Okay, guys. There.
Weekend parties at places such as Sag Harbor on New York's Long Island are a specialty of Eastern club and fraternal groups. Still barred from membership at most country clubs and disgusted attitudes that result.
Only the men are slightly overweight. Did you notice that? I think I've seen one BBW in 20 minutes of this. It's 18 minutes in, and I think I've seen one BBW.
Hotels in the Catskills, Miami Beach, and other holiday spots. Some club members fly into such private parties from other cities to claim their place in the sun. Not all Negroes are pleased with the Negro middle class, however.
In my mind,
here come the hating ass niggas. We can't have a documentary about the Negro middle class without getting a word from the hating ass niggas.
I'm telling you, man, this the reason why I be hating niggas, man. I'm telling you, man. It just be us. I be hating niggas, man.
There is no black middle class. It's impossible for it to exist in this country. We have those who aspire to be middle.
Look, he's from SNCC, right? What was that? The Student Negro Communism Conference, whatever. These angry, radical communism niggas. I hope you're happy. I hope you're happy. Now it's like 70 years later and everybody hates everybody because of you niggas.
Class. And to that group, I would say that they have been almost totally, 99% negligent in their response to the struggles of the masses of black people in this country, and that they have, in many instances, in fact, hindered that struggle by moderating the genuine and legitimate radicalism of the masses.
White-collar Negroes today sometimes find themselves under attack from within their own ranks. Last summer's Evening of Elegance was harshly criticized in some quarters, particularly since it took place only 2 nights after the New York riots. Observers sensed an uneasiness on the part of some guests. Vassal Thomas, organizer of the affair, gives his own assessment.
This is completely socialism. It's not a part of any civil rights organization. We don't propose to. We don't have speeches politically, civil rights, or any other type of controversies.
They just up there living. And you hear that voice? She's got that older Northeastern elegant voice. We don't have any controversies. We don't engage in civil rights, rabble rousing, and none of the thoughts. We are refined Negroes.
Socialism. It's not a part of any civil rights organization. We don't propose to. We don't have speeches politically, civil.
Black people used to be Northeastern snobs. Oh shit. These motherfuckers are WASP. I just realized that these niggas are some goddamn wasps. But like, this is amazing. This is like an amazing anthropological discovery. Waspy niggas, y'all. We need a word for WASP. What does WASP stand for? White Anglo-Saxon Protestant? Black ass Protestants. These are some black ass Protestant, Northeastern snobby sons of bitches. Oh my God. American man, you come from this, huh? It sound like one of your aunties from back in the day. She used to talk to you just like that. American man, why do you hang with these Project Negroes? You're so much better than this.
Rights or any other type of controversies.
And yet, in your way, you do make a contribution in that.
Completely in sympathy with it. Completely in sympathy with it. But I certainly would not like it to disrupt the beauty of the Evening of Elegance.
Okay, you know what? We got to just throw that out there. Him a homosexual. He's clearly a homosexual. There was always going to be one or two of those guys floating around. The homosexuals be having money.
That nigga gay,
so many charming and responsible ladies and gentlemen here tonight, and I thought certainly that I could not expect.
But even the black gays were respectable black back then. I almost felt a little bit of guilt for dropping that drop on him just now, because he's like a respectable homosexual. He not out there with no weave on. Nigga not out there trying to adopt a male baby. Not doing none of this shit. Even the homosexuals were more respectable back then. We just all were better people. America was just a lot better back then.
The public to come to an affair and pay unless it were done for one or another worthy cause. And I might say that I'm delighted that the Urban League of Greater New York has permitted me to use their fabulous name. We choose a certain organization or a certain charity each year, and after it has been chosen, we work like the Dickens to try to bring in some sort of support. But the evening itself is so lavishly done.
The nigga name is Vassal. The nigga name is, his name is gay. The nigga name is Vassal. You know what a vassal is? It's a country that's been butt fucked by another country, and now we own you. His name is gay.
Unless so much money put into the promotion of the evening of elegance that there isn't too much going to the particular charity that has been chosen.
Though other ethnic groups also have their class structures, sensitive Negroes find themselves caught in an awkward dilemma between desires to exercise usual middle-class behavior on the one hand and ever-present reminders of their less fortunate brothers on the other.
Damn. You know, the downside of moving on up is you're automatically looking down at the niggers that didn't make it up there with you. Now we're moving on up away from these niggas.
The soul searching goes on.
I guess it's clear to see now that the Negro who is truly struggling looks askance at us. They are the upper middle class or the middle class. They don't understand our problems. We don't need them. They're of a dying era. The Roy Wilkins and the Whitney Youngs and the Philip Randolph, possibly. We don't understand, and they don't understand. I don't know where it's going to lead to. For instance, myself. I'm born and reared in New York, always having been a kind of a middle-class structure. Never suffered too terribly. Went to integrated schools, got an education in the New York school system, a college education. At 17, I dated white girls. There was some displeasure at it, but I did it, and I had no guilt about it.
He was out there balling. I think it was dating white girls before it was even cool. Oh my God, he was out there balling, living the light-skinned life. So I was dating white girls. I was ahead of the game.
For some reason or the other, I never associated myself with the welfare recipient, the unemployed person. And now I realize that these are my people, that I should be able to do something for them or with them. But yet I haven't. So that, I think, is where the guilt comes in. I have empathy for my people, but yet in my middle class value, I still kind of think of them as those people.
Damn. You know what? In my middle class aspirations, I too think of them as those people. Even having been one of those people, you know, sometimes I look at myself like, you stupid nigga. I totally get it. I totally understand that it's an internal struggle. It's the internal struggle of the nigga, bro. Look, cool. Shout out to SKC. How did I know this would bring you out of the woodworks, bro? Those people, bro. What do you mean, you people? I know exactly what he means. I know exactly what you mean by those people. I can relate, bro. It's the internal struggle of the aspirational Negro. Every time I try to rise above, those people just keep calling me back to the bottom.
For my people, but yet in my middle class value, I still kind of think of them as those people. And I'm aware of it. And I think a lot of people in my particular class, if you will, is aware of it, but we're reluctant. We are just imbued with this white middle class value where we think white. So I take the position that these people have been denied, and I continue to say these people. Notice that. I continue to say these people. And like I'm not one of them, when in fact I am one of them.
I know exactly what you mean, bro. I know. So did he say we feel white? Oh. You have no idea what the white feelings I struggle with internally. I have so many white emotions right now. You have no idea what it feels like. Oh my God, all of these white emotions raging inside of me right now. You just don't understand. Only this light-skinned nigga from the 60s understands the struggle like that.
This white middle class value where we think white. So I take the position that
yes, we think white. We think white. I remember years ago, oh my God, and I really had no proper quip, no witty comeback for it. It just struck me as like an interesting thing I really had no way to really make sense of. But I remember long time ago, my baby's mama, because I am one of those people, my baby's mama, she used to say this shit to me all the time, and I could never quite, like I said, no great comeback for it. But this bitch used to tell me to my face, oh, because you white, you got to be right. And here I am, black as any other nigga in the projects, but this bitch would tell me to my face, oh, because you white, you got to be right. And I'm like, what the fuck did that even mean? But I know exactly what that means. After much contemplation, after much internal cataloging and positive reinforcement of my true whiteness, I accepted the fact that she was seeing something in me that was greater than herself, I guess. It bothered her that I had an internal white glow. I had middle-class aspirations that just, it made a bitch uncomfortable.
these people have been denied, and I continue to say these people. Notice that. I continue to say these people. And like I'm not one of them, when in fact I am one of them. I take the position now that I should help. I should do what I can. I have begun to protest. I will now picket. I will now speak out with my white counterpart.
And look at what they did to this nigga. They buck broke this nigga. This nigga went from chasing white girls, living the light-skinned dream to now I will speak out for my downtrodden Negro. I will tell my white counterpart that he is in fact the problem. It is his fault for oppressing these. They buck broke this light-skinned nigga. Listen to this shit. Look at how he started out.
I haven't. So that, I think, is where the guilt comes in. I have empathy for my people, but yet in my middle class value, I still kind of think of them as those people.
And now, look, now that we are 40 years, 50, 60 years away from this moment, now that he has walked the walk, I can stand on his buck broken shoulders and say confidently, I have zero black guilt, I have zero white guilt, and I will not sacrifice my internal white glow for you niggas. Look at what you did. Look at what he gave up, and look at what he paid for, and look at where we are now. Because you made him feel guilty. Because he sacrificed his internal middle class aspirations. Because you put out his white light. You snuffed out his white glow. And look at what happened.
And I'm aware of it. And I think a lot of people in my particular class, if you will, is aware of it. But we're reluctant. We are...
Shout out to SKC. I'm glad this one brought you out the woodworks. You know, this is that community anthropology that you spoke of. We got to dig in the crates and get to the heart of original blackness, y'all. This is peak Black Americana before it all went to shit. This is like the first couple years after the 1965 Civil Rights Act and all that. This is back when Black America still had something to be black and proud about. And you niggas buck broke this guy and made him an activist now. Shout out to the Coon of Coons. He says, take my white money.
Everybody must eat. Everybody must eat. Everybody must eat. Everybody must eat. Yes.
And shout out to all the black people with middle-class white aspirations. You are not wrong. It's not them. It's not you, it's them. They're the problem, not you.
We're the whites. Nobody ever cares if bad things happen to us anymore.
These are my people, that I should be able to do something for them or with them. But yet I haven't. So that, I think, is where the guilt comes in. I have empathy for my people, but yet in my middle class value, I still kind of think of them as those people. And I'm aware of it. And I think a lot of people in my particular class, if you will, is aware of it, but we're reluctant. We are just imbued with this white middle class value where we think white.
And you know, on some level, I think I do hold a bit of like resentment toward the black elite for dropping that particular ball. If you felt some affinity for your people, my view of it was to kind of raise their condition internally, not join the revolution.
I take the position that these people have been denied, and I continue to say these people. Notice that. I continue to say these people. And like I'm not one of them, when in fact I am one of them. I take the position now that I should help. I should do what I can. I have begun to protest. I will now picket. I will now speak out with my white counterpart about the injustices that have occurred to my people, when before, say, 15 years ago, I kind of behaved like it didn't exist. But now when I read, when it's brought to the front about housing and about job discrimination, I realize now that this did exist when I was younger, but I was just oblivious to it. I didn't think as a Negro. But now I'm thinking as a Negro.
So when you didn't think as a Negro, you managed to rise all the way up to this place in life. But apparently the people who thought as a Negro, they're suffering. And I wonder if there's a relationship there. You know, Negro thinking leads to Negro results, but middle-class white thinking leads to middle-class white results.
And I think more people in my group aren't thinking as Negro.
Look, there it is. More people in his group are thinking as Negroes, which is why I said I have a little bit of resentment for that black elite class. It was not your role to think as Negroes. That is moving backwards in my estimation. You are living the WASP Protestant life, right? The wealthy white dream, the picket fence. The house with the 3.4 bedrooms, 2.4 children.
While the gap still exists, there are those from both groups who realize the necessity of bridging it, such as at this candid committee meeting of HARU, Harlem's anti-poverty agency.
Agree wholeheartedly with the spirit of what Brother Kirby has said.
Yeah, and I think I can roll with that. They, black or not, this is definitely white Anglo-Saxon Protestant culture that they've adopted into, and they are WASP, black or not. Still, it's very waspy of them. That was my very first take when it just struck me how waspy that whole debutante thing looked. I'm like, damn, I didn't know niggas used to do it like that.
I must point out this for you, though, to us. Let's not make the mistake of confusing HARU Act staff availability with what CDA should provide. Now, the reason we pushed, and I want that to really be pushed, we'll be in Albany tomorrow, so somebody will have to push it here, maybe you, Madam Chairman, CDA to give us the money so you can staff your program so that you'll have staff you can depend on.
You know, there's another thing I keep noticing about this video. Almost everybody is a smoker, and people were all smoking in public. And correct me if I'm wrong, there is a correlation between nicotine usage and testosterone. Nicotine spikes your testosterone levels.
Publicist Ophil Dukes, who works in the Vice President's office, volunteers his spare time to work with underprivileged youths in the Washington ghettos.
So we'll try to work out some arrangements to make things very convenient for you. If we can get a few Cadillacs, that would be great.
All time. Well, you know, I don't like no planes and no trains either. I don't like no trains. You know, I was on a train one time and just riding along, you know, and all of a sudden there's a big boom. You know,
what happened?
A plane fell on it, Jim.
And shout out to SKC again with another foul ball. There were black elites that fought against the insanity that George Schuyler was one. One day we'll chat about this lost history among the masses. Yeah, I love these old documentaries because I really deeply feel we've all been lied to about the history of black people in America, especially like that post-slavery history. I really think we had the wool pulled over our eyes in a lot of ways. But shout out to SKC with the foul ball. Thank y'all for supporting the show. Hit that like button. Y'all like, share, and subscribe.
Give me the money. Give me the money for all that I would do. Give me the money.
Make sure you get on that television show.
I think the one thing that the Negro lacks in terms of his ability to move from one group to another has been his separation from the total middle class, his exclusion from contacts with people who are doing things that he could be inspired to do. I think I can speak with a little authority since I started from the lowest possible class. I was born in Arkansas, and my
a bootstrap Negro, a 1968 pre-welfare, pre-affirmative action, pre-say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud, bootstrap nigga. They told me bootstrap niggas didn't exist. They told me bootstraps was a white man's fantasy. They told me that bootstraps were just like a scheme, like per capita. They told me the bootstraps was just white people magic, like per capita. Shout out to Freeman's Journal with the $2. Says shout out to FKC. No black guilt. Hashtag no black guilt. Hashtag be free. We all need to be free.
Because there are a lot of people in this country who do not like black women, but black women are the base of the Democratic Party.
But we'll never be free. We're Democrats now. We can't be free. We're Democrats now. That's not how freedom works. We had our chance to be free, and then we became Democrats. It's over now. Freedom is for white people anyway.
These blacks.
Family came to Chicago in the midst of the Depression in 1933. Our money soon ran out, and we were on the relief rolls. I think that the thing that was most helpful to me in being motivated to move out of one class into another was contact with people in a different class. Fortunately, I worked at an insurance company which had 6 men, Negro men, who were all graduates of leading colleges like Yale and Harvard and Northwestern and the University of Chicago. These men had succeeded in business. They were black men like myself. And so I was able to see from day to day that it was possible to move from one class to another. I don't think we ought to be content just to be in the middle class. I think just as there are whites in the upper class, I think we've got to have Negroes in the upper class.
But the overriding problem faced by Negroes, particularly middle-class Negroes, has been the thwarting by the larger white society of Negro pursuit of the vaunted American dream.
Present to you the President of the United States.
In 1964, President Lyndon Johnson stated a new governmental policy.
It is our task to carry forward nothing less than the full assimilation of more than 20 million Negroes into American life.
Now, at the same time, before LBJ came along to save black people, apparently there were a lot of black people that managed to thrive and pull themselves up out of the gutter without without the magical white man coming to help. So it makes you question, how helpful was his help? Look at all we've lost. Like, what happened to the debutantes? What happened to like the proud Negro wealthy subculture that we just seem to like not have? Well, we have it, but they're not visible anymore. Why is the ghetto the face of black people and not, the wealthy Negro subculture? Not a dreadhead in sight, no tarantula monsters, no weaves. Everybody looking like they at an NOI meeting right now. They all got those really sharp 1950s suits on with the skinny ties.
This is not to be an assimilation of bland conformity. Our object is not to make all people alike. It is, as it has always been, to allow ready access to every blessing of liberty, while permitting each to keep his sense of identity with a culture and a tradition.
Despite the fact that he promised no more than that which white Americans automatically take for granted, this still represented the most far-reaching promise to Negroes ever made by any American president. This climaxed a time, beginning with the March on Washington.
I really do have this, and I wonder if I'm not alone in this feeling. Years ago, before I was all woke and J-pilled and all this, all these facts about the world that it was better off if I hadn't learned. Like, I could watch a movie like Saving Private Ryan and feel zero bitterness about it. Now I watch a Saving Private Ryan and it all feels fake. I watch civil rights era documentaries and it all feels the same kind of fake. Realizing that a lot of our history is something that's been conjured up to encourage a particular outcome. A lot of this stuff now, knowing what we know now about the civil rights movement, what really happened after the civil rights movement, knowing about the players in the civil rights movement, the hidden hand, the secret agendas and all of that. It's hard for me to watch these type of things with the pride that you might have had once upon a time. Now there's just a kind of bitterness watching this stuff.
By Dr. Martin Luther King and other civil rights leaders, when the mood among most Negroes was one of hope, of rising expectations, of a vision of a new and more just relationship between white and black.
And the belief that the government can create this more just relationship was the poison pill that ruined it all. Shout out to Lasers Go Pew Pew with the $2 super chat. Appreciate your support, bro. You guys want to have a panel? Because this is a long documentary. I don't want to review the entirety of the documentary live, but you guys want to have a panel? Throw $1 in the hat. We're going to open up the panel in a few minutes, y'all.
Everybody must eat. Everybody must eat. Everybody must eat. Everybody must eat. Yes.
But a new term was added to the American lexicon: white backlash.
Ooh, white power, KKK. We got a live one.
I read newspaper articles of people, second-generation immigrants, saying, well, my father came here and he didn't have any civil rights bill to help him.
Hold on. What was that last move about?
Immigrants saying, well, my father came here and he didn't have any civil rights.
You really just had to show us your white muscle, bro?
People, second-generation immigrants saying, well, my father came here and he didn't have any civil rights bill to help him. What the person forgot was that his father wasn't black. The sociologists have this term high visibility to refer to the fact that you can always see the Negro. He wears his badge of color. European could come speaking a European language. Once he learned English, things were different. He could change his name and take an Anglo-Saxon type name and lose himself in the vast middle class of this country. No matter what the Negro attained in terms of his money or his education, he could not slough off color, and insofar as color was a focal point for prejudice, he was at a competitive disadvantage. And yet one of the great ironies of life in the United States is that white middle-class neighborhoods, without even waiting to see what types of neighbors they are dealing with, have had the tendency to meet the incoming Negro with first in the old days with restrictive covenants when they were declared unenforceable in the courts with arson and bombs, and today with the same wall of lack of acceptance.
Do you know the irony is nowadays black folk are like, we want to buy land for a black community, for black people to live a black life and have our own black dreams. But you know, years ago when white folk were like, hey, we want our own neighborhood, it was like, no, that's racism. Like just a couple years ago, there was a black lady in Georgia somewhere. A bunch of black folk got together to try to build their own little black town or whatever, and everybody celebrated that. But then when the white folk in Arkansas or Alabama or whatever tried to build their little white community, it was like, no, that's racism. You can't do that.
Very often, and this has been proved in those neighborhoods where you have block organizations. The white neighbors who try to keep him out, families who themselves have only become middle class in the last generation, very often immigrant families who cannot even speak a variety of English as impeccable as the English which the new Negro neighbor has, have reacted with violence and with fury in order to try to prevent Negro neighbors from coming in. And this perhaps is one of the greatest tragedies of the Negro middle class.
And now the irony of that is now it's black people being displaced by a new ethnic group in the Latino community, and black Americans being displaced by Africans, same as it ever was.
Its aspirations are blocked with respect to living in those kinds of neighborhoods where one can live a middle-class style of life most effectively. The most extreme form of this, of course, is in the suburban areas. And if any of the problems of the inner city are going to be solved, as well as the problems of the Negro middle class, the suburban ring around our major cities is going to have to drastically alter its attitude toward the people who are like them in every respect other than the color of their skins.
I was quite shocked at many places. I wanted to see just exactly how the ordinary Negro might be treated in these villages. Oh, I remember at one time I parked at...
Millionaire Chicago scientist Dr. Percy Julian, co-chairman of a committee of Negro businessmen pledged to raise $1 million a year for civil rights goals, tells of a personal experience.
Just gently bumped the back of an automobile of a fellow who was standing there in parking. I bumped his car slightly, and then I jumped out and I said, "Oh, pardon me very much. I wanted to see how he would accept an apology." Well, he called me a 3-letter name, and with black in front of it, and
black ass. Feel like we're playing Scrabble or some type of game. Called you a black ass.
I asked him please not to do that. It wasn't necessary. But then he jumped up and ran into a store. "I'm going to call the police. I'm going to call the police." The police came and asked him. He said he wanted to institute a claim for damage. I had damaged his car. The police tried to see where the damage was. There was no damage. And yet he was just furious. He was, I began to wonder, well, just how deep is the hatred of a person of this sort? I went over that, over that experience many times. As I went through these suburbs, and I would ask children how many of them had a Negro friend. They would look at me as though they were astonished, and hardly a child I could find who said he had a Negro friend in any of these places. One might say, "Oh, I know one," and the innocent children. And I realized that really the great impact of the ghetto, the great impact of the philosophy of the actual existence of the untouchable in America, which the Negro represents, that the white child does not know him, and the white child grows up in these insulated villages to come in contact with him later on and to pass judgment on him, to represent him in Congress, to represent him to try him on a jury, to send him to the army as a member of a draft board. And they never know him, and they don't know what, all they know is hearsay about it.
Shout out to Rational Baz with the $5 donation. He says, everything we've been told is a lie. Even the true parts are framed or one-sided tellings. They fight with lies and innuendo and narrative control. That is absolutely true. This is why I am forever suspicious about every popular narrative that we've been told about history. Everything's a lie. Well, welcome to the show, Angry Snowman. We've been lying about you and your people for a long time, haven't we?
Dude, it sounds like civil rights era was the biggest mistake black people ever made. Because you know what's wild is at the beginning of this documentary, black people sounded normal. Like normal
Very
people.
Very waspy. We sounded whiter than white people in some
right.
cases.
I mean, look, if I didn't know any better, the younger version of that dude, when he was talking, I heard a white man talking and kept seeing a black man on the screen and was very confused. You know what I'm saying? So
I had no idea Black America had a waspy culture like that. Like, this is straight white Anglo-Saxon Protestant culture here, but they're all dark-skinned.
But what's wild is you can see that, because this is the same guy at the beginning, right?
No, I don't think he's the same guy at the beginning.
Okay. I thought this was the same guy that was talking at the beginning, man. And if it was, I was like, it's crazy how much they were able to push the Democratic and, liberal woke mind virus on people so early on.
No, they just introduced him, so I don't think it's the same guy. But I do think it's interesting. I keep taking note of how like they really had to bring in the upper middle class, urban elite black crowd to kind of solidify the civil rights gains.
Rumors about him, and this has not been overcome by the large number, even though there are larger numbers of people of goodwill who teach their children the proper things. But there are so many who don't.
Because Carmen made a comment, and I'm gonna have to push back on that. Snowman sounds a lot more ghetto than old-timey black guys. I will not have you putting shame on my whiteness, young lady.
I'm just saying, your whiteness is looking a little dingy compared to these niggas.
You can shut the hell up too. It ain't my fault that all these. It ain't my fault all these white people are weak.
Don't bother to teach the children, and I'm not sure that we can rest comfortably and think that the majority of white Americans have goodwill toward them. I unfortunately, I wish I could keep this dream, but I'm afraid that these experiences to which you refer made me doubt that I could have any such dream as that.
All these angry white folks. All of a sudden, this documentary feels like Black History Month.
It does, except for the fact that they always forget to tell people during Black History Month that integration was forced on white people at gunpoint.
I know, with bayonets and shit. Not just gunpoint, guns with knives on them. So they were going to shoot you and or stab you.
Let's see how they would feel if white people came into black communities and forced white people in their communities at gunpoint.
Listen, you can't force me to like you at gunpoint.
Right.
There isn't a knife sharp enough to force me to like you. But that's the deal, though. Like, you're being forced to like niggas at gunpoint. And so it's the force of it, and then it's the affront of it. Like, this isn't likable behavior. And you're forcing me at gunpoint to like unlikable behavior. It creates several layers of just discontent that's probably been brewing for a long time. And frankly, you need a lot of propaganda to fight that back, to choke that down. This is why I talk about like Saving Private Ryan or whatever, like realizing how much of that is probably low-key propaganda to get you to feel a certain way about a certain thing. I just can't like it anymore.
Right. I mean, can you really blame white people at the time for being upset when their government literally put guns in their face and said, look, you're going to allow these people in your community, whether you like it or not, and we don't care what your community turns into?
Well, no, obviously you can't, but you're not, and this is another, modern sort of disposition with the community. There is no empathy. Empathy itself is for white people.
And we have noticed particularly, I think it comes from Congress. Congress has adopted a hard line, and there's no reason to believe that they're going to change in any way as a result of the hard line that's being adopted assumed by America's Negroes, younger Negroes particularly. I think in terms of my own son, who's 17 years old, high school senior, about ready to graduate, and as we discuss philosophies, he says, in effect, that you can have that urban league approach, that I'm ready to be a man in America now, that I want full equality with no holds barred. And if I can't have it, no one can have it. And he's an intelligent boy, and in my opinion, a pretty decent boy, a nice boy. But this is his attitude. And
And I think right there, that's when the shift from equality of access to equality of outcome starts to take place. Because it's one thing to say, I want the exact rights that, you know, the Constitution grants white people, right? It's another thing to say that I want to live like the white people.
I don't even think it's that, Hood. I think that, look, today black people have the equality that they were fighting for, quote unquote, during the civil rights era and before. It isn't equality or equity that they want. It's power. They want control.
True.
And until they get control, nothing is going to be good enough. And if you want my honest opinion, I don't even think complete control is going to be good enough.
Well, you can't exercise, you can't get to the point of equality of outcome without having overwhelming control. There's no way to equalize the outcomes without a level of control. So you're right, but it's an unspoken thing, right? They want control, but that's not how they're going to sell it to you. They're going to sell it like, I've been oppressed and I need to have the power to fix things. But that power to fix things is also the power to break things even greater. And that's where the control comes in. That's why things look so horrible nowadays, because they've been using that power to fix things, and their solution is only more of a problem.
They've been using the power, but have they really been fixing anything?
No.
That's the thing, is that they want to tell everybody that they're fixing everything, and basically it's a bunch of people that are gaslighting you, collecting a bunch of dollars, telling you they're going to fix things, stuff in their pockets, and never fixing anything. I mean, think about it. You had a guy on here earlier that said that he'd been helping out the youth in Chicago for 35 years and still has not got any positive, ground on it. 35 years he's been doing it and still hasn't got a positive outcome. That in and of itself speaks volumes.
And this is the attitude of his friends.
Okay, come on, man, get off me, man. What the hell is wrong with y'all, man? No, come on, man, get off me.
Oh shit! I think we might have the very first video recording of a Dendu. This is the very first video footage of a didn't do nothing. That nigga clearly didn't do nothing. Whoa, that's live rifle fire. What was going on? What riot was this? Was this Chicago? It might be Detroit. I think it was Detroit back then. Detroit.
Hell, yeah. That could even be Akron back then.
You know what? Not only that, you just reminded me, Akron, fucking Ohio, bro.
Dude, it's always been a hot spot for this shit.
Ohio had a race riot in the 90s that they buried. I had no idea. I'm about to pull this up for you guys because I found the footage and I saved it. Well, I didn't find the footage. The footage found me because I'm open to the universe like that. But oh my God, you niggas had a race riot in Ohio terrorizing the white people. And I'm just now learning about this in my old life. I'm too old to care about these kinds of things.
I had race riots in my high school.
Tell me more.
No, it wasn't anybody versus whites. It was like blacks versus Mexicans, and then Mexicans versus Asians, and then Asians versus blacks. White people.
POC on POC almost never counts as a race riot.
I went to the proper hood. I mean, hey, they had the ghetto bird out. I know it's funny. There was the local TV station was like just 3 blocks away, so their helicopter was over my school a few times.
Cincinnati race riot, April 9th through 13th. This shit lasted 4 days in 2001.
I remember this shit.
And this was, you know why we probably forgot about it? Because 3 months later, it was 9/11.
Well, and plus the media landscape back then.
Tally now, 71 people injured, 10 new arrests tonight.
Yeah, the internet wasn't doing its thing yet. We didn't have YouTube back then.
Bringing the total now to 30 arrests. Scenes like this prompted police to close off the streets. This woman was caught in the middle of the mayhem when protesters broke her car windows.
We got bombed. She was trying to take me home on 13th Street. They tried to kill us. We didn't do anything to the people. They did our 50 of them run us backwards.
A similar situation for this guy who suffered minor cuts when protesters broke his windows. And this man cried with relief when he managed to get away from the rowdy crowd.
Y'all made that white. They making crackers cry, y'all. Do you understand?
See, and this is why if I get stuck in a situation like this, I'm just hitting the gas and flooring it.
I don't understand why. I mean, white people want to be around black people more than I do.
Yeah.
I look at this like, what?
Not really. Just a certain sect of them do.
Well, I mean, I'm saying that in general, but at least half. It's about half the tribe.
I'll give you that.
You know, I wouldn't live in Memphis, Baltimore, Atlanta. White people love those cities.
You know, it's crazy. You know, Friedman's, I'll give you the half, but what's wild about it is even if you look at the liberal whites that want to be around blacks, they still choose to live away from them. They might engage with them and go out and, you know, do some of the same shared activities and such, some of the same marches and things like that, whatever, but they're still going to live away from them.
Yeah, I think the wealthy white enclave, well, the liberal white enclaves are almost always like monochromatic. They'll have some Asians maybe.
Remember, it was a famous old white racist on the internet that said that the people that push for integration are the ones that live the farthest away from it.
Yep.
And that's the sound of police firing shotguns with rubber bullets and beanbags into the crowd at Washington Park in Over the Run.
You know what's ironic right now? Today's show, 3 hours ago, we started out on teen takeovers, and now we're ending on race riots. I think there is a continuum between these two ideas. There is a through line between black people having race riots and teen takeovers. I just can't quite figure it out yet.
Same thing, different name. That's all it is.
Apparently, this is black culture. Oh, I can hear you, right?
No, I was just saying Over the Rhine is nice. Mount Adams, it's a nice area. I mean, I'm sure I've said this before. I lived in Ohio for a while, and Southern Ohio, and yeah, I've been to this area many, many times.
Yeah, down in Meigs County is beautiful, man.
Trash cans, vendors' carts, whatever they can pick up, they throw, smashing dozens of windows. At Washington Park, a standoff between angry demonstrators and police in riot gear ends after police fire on the crowd. They use beanbag guns, large rubber bullets, and tear gas. A few people are injured. One woman is left lying on the ground. She has to be taken to the hospital.
I told them we the ones who died. I told them we the ones who died, and they shot me with this.
Many innocent bystanders find themselves caught in the
Tarantula
middle.
head.
They down here aggravating the whole party just shooting at anybody.
That shit.
It's not making no sense.
This is escalated because they shooting innocent people and they shooting kids that ain't got nothing to do with it already.
This truck driver found himself a target. Protesters jump in the passenger side, beat him, and pull him to the ground.
You know,
I am not stopping. You know how heavy these trucks are? I am not stopping. It's going to be a couple of bodies that day.
You know how, dude, it always floors me when you got these people sitting and complaining about cops shooting kids at riots, but yet they bring their kids to riots. I mean, what kind of lack of intelligence do you got to have to sit and complain about bringing and putting your own child in danger?
This is why you kind of just have to have like an incredulous attitude and just not care. Like, you know what? F you and your kid. How about that? You and your little riot kid, your riot loving child deserved it. You know, you just got to turn off the tears, bro.
Right. That's how I felt about that kid that got gassed in the back of the car. I didn't care. It's his parents' fault for bringing him to that crap.
Yeah, you're talking about
blame the parents. Don't blame the people that gassed him. Blame the parents for being involved in that crap and then bringing their kids along to be a part of it.
Freeman, you about to say something?
If they didn't want to get gas, they shouldn't have came. Oh, and for those that don't know, yeah, Cincinnati has like a real ghetto.
When you say a real ghetto, like, is it walled off like they used to do the Jews?
Dude, the whole
What do you
city is a
mean by a
ghetto.
real ghetto?
The whole city's a ghetto.
When I say a real ghetto, like, okay, so just for the people in the audience, like, okay, so I lived in Dayton, right? So Dayton is a ghetto, the whole thing. Like, if you 75 goes right down the middle. If you go to the east, it's a white ghetto. If you go to the west, it's a black ghetto. So similarly, it's kind of like Cincinnati. When you go up 75, and if you go to the east, like east of downtown, it is a straight up ghetto. Like, it is, yeah. It's nasty. Nobody goes there, and they act like it doesn't exist. It's like you watch the news and stuff. It's just nasty, and like stuff happens there, and they kind of talk about it almost tangentially, like they're just like it doesn't
like
exist.
A black
like
hole.
It's like right? Yeah, it's like this. Like it's this
things
void.
that happen there don't escape the void.
I do have to back up Friedman's though about Dayton. I lived an hour away from there most of my life, man, and that is one of the nastiest cities on the planet.
Yeah, it is. It is not cool. Like, well, I say I lived in Dayton, but I never could have voted for the mayor of Dayton. I always lived in like a township or a little satellite city. I've only
touched Ohio maybe once or twice in my life, and it was like for a day trip. You know, went to a funeral. I think
you're really not missing nothing.
You know, and despite that, I do love Ohio. I would. It's one of the few places I would move that aren't Texas or Tennessee.
Fuck that.
Florida.
I think America has a lot of that phenomenon where the place looks beautiful, or it certainly used to look beautiful, but the people have ruined it over the years.
Oh man, I wouldn't live in Dayton. I'm saying there's like Springboro, like there's plenty of like way better places.
The only thing Ohio has to offer is alcoholism, fentanyl or heroin overdose, or jail. That's it.
And some nice girthy women that will breed you an offensive or defensive lineman. That's why we're still good at football.
That didn't work. And here come about 20 more of them when they started beating the truck and beating me.
Some business owners pull gates in front of their windows. Others are left cleaning up the mess left behind. Police round up some of the protesters and take them away in handcuffs, while others watch. But right now, as I said, they're about a few blocks away from here. The crowd does seem to be dissipating, so hopefully it has quieted for the night.
All right, Lynn, let's hope so. Thanks for that report. Stacey?
Some over-the-Rhine business owners are wondering tonight when the violence might end. Tonight, almost all the businesses in the Main Street Entertainment District are closed. Many had put up boards over broken windows or chairs in front of the doors, and this is the reason why. Around 3 o'clock this afternoon, a mob ran through the area, breaking windows. The staff at the Jump Cafe lost a window, and they can't believe it.
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I am not the one, that caused all this to happen. This is my place of business. I'm a taxpayer. I've been in Over the Rhine for 6 years.
Or looked into that side of the story.
You'd think there was a big part.
Oh shit! Why does this look like a music video? This look like Pooh Shiesty's doing a music video.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember what this riot was started over now.
What was it about?
It was about another unarmed black teenager that got shot by a cop.
It's always about that. The little nigga probably had it coming too.
You'd think there was a big party downtown, complete with beer and reveling. But no sports teams won a pennant. Instead, this is a violent wake for Timothy Thomas. Or is it?
There's a lot of individuals here that are not participating in this civil disturbance. So not only are we concerned about the crowd, we have to be concerned about the innocent people that are here along with ourselves.
Innocent people like Bob Deerdorf of Davis Furniture left to shake his head at the damage to his store.
I think it's absolutely terrible.
act like fools.
Deerdorf is not alone.
Some of them appear just to be out for the fun of it.
Cincinnati Mayor Charlie Luken says much of the violence has nothing to do with the police shooting.
A lot of what I saw was not people reacting to the event of Saturday night. A lot of what I saw are 12-year-old kids stealing hot dogs from vendors and breaking windows.
You know, I take it back. This teen takeover thing doesn't really stem from the George Floyd protest. This is something baked into Black culture.
I think so.
Yeah, I tried to blame Floyd, but this isn't on St. Floyd. This is a Black thing.
I think rioting every time a Black person is confronted with accountability for their actions is baked into Black culture at this point. Because look, nobody can sit and reprimand Black people, period, without Black people getting emotional and deciding they want to tear the country down.
Right.
I mean, I don't care what it is. Like if you look at it, look, this kid, granted, he was an unarmed. I'm reading it. It says that the riots began after 19-year-old Timothy Thomas, an unarmed African American, was shot and killed by Cincinnati police officer on April 2001 during an attempt to arrest him for nonviolent misdemeanors, mostly traffic violations.
Bro.
Thomas had 14 outstanding warrants and fled from police, leading to a confrontation in the Over the Rhine neighborhood. So he had 14 warrants, and then he took off and ran. And then they say what was sparked the outrage was the fact that when the cops shot him, it appeared that he reached for his waistband, but was later found to be unarmed. We all know that young black men are notorious for reaching for their waistband, whether they got a gun or not, to try and scare you into thinking they got a gun.
The bluff move works more times than not. The few times where the bluff move doesn't work, it's because you got shot.
You know, I remember this now. I didn't realize it was that bad.
Yeah.
I remember this was on the news, but they didn't go into like this much detail. Because this is a Cincinnati channel. I saw it in Dayton.
All right.
I love you.
Love you.
Yes, I'm alone time. You're welcome.
Okay.
Oh, so man, you're a simp. You love your wife. It's so gay.
Shut the fuck up. I hate you, you bag. Just because I got a good white life that you want and can't have, now you got to try and shame me for it.
I'm sorry. That was my black side getting the best of me.
Hey, did you hear that? My daughter just came in and said, "I love you, Daddy," too.
Oh, all right. Kids don't count.
Gay. Your kids love you. Gay.
Love you. Have fun.
Love
you.
Oh man.
You're just jealous. You're jealous of all this whiteness just perspiring from my pores right now.
All this white raspiness is killing me.
My kids love me too. Relax.
Shout out to TR McCoy. He says, "Yo, Hood, St. Clair Drake's book, Black Metropolis, is a must-read. It'd be one hell of a show for you to review." Oh, this nigga you're gonna make me actually read. All right, I haven't reached that level of whiteness. I don't read in my spare time. You're gonna get me deep into whiteness, ain't you? I gotta get even whiter to do this show properly now. I see.
Yeah, we can tell when you read super chats you don't read.
I know, right? Jesus Christ. You guys realize I'm struggling here. St. Clair Drake's book, though. I've never even heard of that guy, but now I gotta look into Black Metropolis. Let me see if I can YouTube a video about Black Metropolis and cheat the game.
Dang, it's $41 for the
Oh, there must be some knowledge in there. $41. There's some shit in there they don't want Negroes to know. Anytime they make a book like that expensive, it's because there's some shit in there they don't want regular people to read about.
Yeah, that's true. I should probably just cop it right now.
Oh, Black Metropolis audiobook. All right. Well, I know how I'm going to be falling asleep.
I knew that's the only way you read.
I read through osmosis. All right. Shut up. Don't judge me.
You still want your mama to read you bedtime stories.
Yeah, bedtime stories about oppression and racism. That's how all black kids go to
That
sleep.
sounds about right, don't it? It tracks.
That's how all black kids go to sleep. Bedtime stories about oppression and shit, bro.
All right, ordered.
You know what? If somebody actually is, I don't know, is he reviewing this book? I meant what I said. I'm gonna YouTube cheat and find a book, and I'm gonna find somebody making an AI video about that book, and that's how I'm gonna cheat and get the content.
To Chicago, they came in droves, 50,000 of them between 1910 and 1920. Ooh! And as each wave arrived, the migrants wrote the folks back home about the wonderful North. A flood of relatives and friends followed in their wake. That's the fever Emmett J. Scott discussed in the 1920 book Negro Migration During the War. Negroes caught the fever and began leaving the city in droves. A town.
Negroes caught the fever. What fever? Let me run that back a little bit. What fever is he referring to?
Carried free tickets in their pockets and always glowing promises on their tongues. Some of those promises were higher wages, better treatment, better homes, and essentially a better life in general compared to how they lived in the South. For the first time, Southern Negroes were actually being invited, even urged, to come to Chicago. They came in droves, 50,000 of them between 1910 and 1920. Ooh! And as each wave arrived, the migrants wrote the folks back home about the wonderful North. A flood of relatives and friends followed in their wake. That's the fever Emmett J. Scott discussed in the 1920 book Negro Migration During the War. Negroes caught the fever and began leaving the city in droves. A town might have a population of 5,000 Negroes one day and wake up to find out that half of them went missing.
Damn. Them niggas wound up in East New York.
You know what's crazy is you never see white people flooding from white neighborhoods to move into black neighborhoods.
Well, why would they? Like, what would be the draw? Like, what would make a bunch of white people move into a black neighborhood?
According to the community, you know, white people just want to emulate everything about black people. Think about that. Well, we copy you, we emulate you, we steal everything from you, but for some reason we don't want to be nowhere near you. Every time every time you guys move to our neighborhoods, we move farther away, and you still keep chasing us, and we keep moving farther away, and you still keep chasing us.
Sound like your legs are getting tired, Snowman.
They are, man. I'm getting old, and I'm tired of running.
Sounds like a you problem, buddy. I can't help you.
Oh. Did Jesus return and take them away to heaven and we got left behind? No, they went up north. The letters from the blacks that were already in the north and the slick tactics from the 007 labor agents all helped to stimulate the desire in more Negroes to leave. And it got so bad that places like Jacksonville started imposing hefty fines on labor agents when they came into the city to recruit.
You know what? I'm starting to smell a conspiracy here. What if you imagine yourself a communist revolutionary of the 1920s or 30s, right? Realizing that the racial wedge strategy is a proven effective strategy that, you know, it just toppled the Tsar in Russia. The Bolsheviks have used this very well already. And now they come to America and they realize we have another downtrodden, oppressed ethnic minority that we can, like, you know, manipulate and exacerbate their problems into our grand revolutionary cause. But all the bitter, unhappy, violent niggas live in the South. What if we got these bitter, unhappy, violent niggas up north into the cities? And then we can use these niggas to actually have a revolution in the cities where it counts. That's my conspiracy brain thinking. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I have trust issues and I stay up too late.
Georgia required a recruiting fee of $25,000, and the agent had to be recommended by 10 ministers and 25 businessmen. Then Montgomery, Alabama imposed fines and jail sentences for any person that was caught trying to persuade people to leave the city. This was how the South responded to Negroes being seduced to leave in such high numbers and in such a short time. Now, did all of these efforts work to stop blacks from leaving? No. Still, they came. As coercion failed, worried businessmen and planners resorted to conciliation and persuasion in an effort to stem the tide. They attempted to butter up Negroes and talk sweet nothings to them. They attempted to do whatever was necessary to entice them to stay, because they needed blacks who were a core component of the Southern economy. Leading Southern white newspapers began to condemn lynching and the inequitable treatment of Negroes in the courts.
You know, I think this is a great place to stop. I definitely have some reading material, wink, wink, to go over. You know, niggas don't read, all right? God damn it, don't judge me. I do all my best reading on YouTube now. But I definitely have some reading material to go over. This is an interesting story about the actual black migration. Apparently, you know what I'm getting? What was that movie that they came out with? And they played it at the White House, that
Birth of a Nation.
Birth of a Nation, right? I'm getting low-key Birth of a Nation vibes, right?
Hey, dude, that's a classic American movie. I think everybody should watch it.
Well, and the thing about Birth of a Nation, it's like, well, you freed the slaves, and they portray the slaves as like ravenous, and, you know, rapers and all this kind of thing. But like, you understand that living on a plantation is effectively being an inmate. And so what the South did was the equivalent of releasing every jail in the region. Can you imagine if something like that happened? Imagine you live in a town with a jail and they released all the inmates one day. Like, it's not going to go well. It's just not. Human nature will override all your stupid progressive imaginations about how things will play out, and people are going to get hurt, and you're going to have to kill people to bring peace. And when I think about Birth of a Nation, that's low-key like one of the stories that they were trying to get out there was like, you know what? It was actually kind of shitty. You freeing all these niggers wasn't as simple as you thought it was. And then now I look at this whole march to the north, and I'm getting that vibe again, where it's like, all right, so you're gonna bring all these angry Southern niggas up here to the integrated North. It was half integrated before you even got the civil rights laws going. And now you're going to bring them up here and stoke more like hostility. It seems like a really good strategy if you're, you know, evil and unscrupulous.
You know what I find interesting is that it seems like the blacks of the North seem to have more of hatred and disdain for whites than the blacks of the South. Every time I've ever went south and ran into black people, they were always polite for the most part. You know, polite, you know, decent human beings, most of them.
I think
but South, when you get up in the North, for some, it's funny that in the North, all of these people that came up here just so they could benefit from the freedom and benefit from, you know, integration that was going on up here, now all of a sudden are the ones that are the most racist, most extreme, most oppressed, you know, most victimized. It's wild to me.
You know, I've heard somebody describe Southern conservatives versus Northern liberals in this way. Southern conservatives get accused of racism, but as a general rule, Southern white people have probably had more general interactions with black folk, positive and negative, than your average Northern liberal who lives in basically a monochromatic gated white community, away from the Negroes that they love to champion and all that. Whereas like Southern people might have harsh things to say, or they might have a keep off my lawn attitude, but they know exactly why and how they got to that conclusion. Whereas like liberals just project a fantasy onto the world, and then they accuse everybody else of the racism that they live by.
That makes sense.
But that's the South is just different like that, because you know what? In reality, if you look at like a heat map of black population in America, most blacks live in the South to this day.
That is true.
Texas to Florida.
And that's wild in and of itself if you think about it. You know, the South is supposed to be the most racist land in America, but yet that's where the biggest concentration of blacks are.
Because most of the black people didn't actually leave. Like what we're looking at right here about black folk leaving the South, most didn't actually leave as far as I can tell. It was a lot left, but I mean, it's probably like, 20, 30%, which is like huge in people numbers, but it's not going to kill your town all the way, But you know what? I think this is a great point to kind of wrap this one up because I got to get out of here in a minute. We took this one into like double overtime.
I just say black people keep doing your thing. Keep
I
making
don't even
yourself
know
look
how to
great.
take that. I don't even know how to take that, Snowman. That was such a double-sided half a compliment. Anyway,
that's all I got for you. Just keep doing your thing, brother.
That's what I get for having white friends. Now I got to become fluent in sarcasm and shit. White people love sarcasm, by the way.
Yes, sir.
Guys, it's been great. You guys have a great day. And SKC, what is that comment? Shiler told Malcolm X that Negroes aren't the same and should never be the same. And if they were to become the same, it would be disastrous. What's going on, John, the urban landlord? Look, we've been discovering some secrets about Black history, bro. You're getting here kind of late, but I just found out that Black America, up until like the late 60s, early 70s, a lot of you niggas were basically WASP, bro. White Anglo-Saxon Protestants. Black America had basically adopted white Anglo-Saxon Protestant culture. And then a bunch of dark-skinned niggas like you, John, a bunch of dark-skinned niggas from the South came up to the North and ruined that shit for everybody. And then we had nonstop revolution. You niggas ruined the Black WASP culture. That's pretty much what we learned in today's show. Southern country niggas, they done came up and ruined Black WASP culture. And now we're cursed with race riots and teen takeovers until something is done. I guess we're going to end on that note. Thank y'all so much for coming out today. Appreciate y'all watching the show. Like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate all the support, all the donations. Thank you all for watching, but we got to put this one in the can. I will come back tomorrow for a next one. Peace, y'all. And you know what? This next drop is actually incredibly more it's incredibly poignant now, considering all that we've seen about Black, white, Anglo-Saxon Protestant culture.
Aspiring to be patriarchs like what white men have, that isn't freedom. That isn't going to help anybody. It's certainly not going to help Black people.
Lying fat bitch. That lying fat heifer.
Aspiring to be patriarchs like what white men have, that isn't freedom. That isn't going to help anybody. It's certainly not going to help Black people.
Black America, we skipped our Norman Rockwell phase and went straight to revolution. We never got to have our real Norman Rockwell phase. We were this close. We were really so close. We could have had it all. But you niggas wanted to revolution. And now the men hate the women and all the kids are gay.
It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done.